like that.
Go. That'll be it for it. And ready?
Probably green, you know.
Welcome, everyone. Our second time to get together with John and his friends. Probably a good way to start off for our video audience is just to go around and have everybody say who they are, how long they've been here, and so forth.
My name is Bill Erkin, and my cousin is Wayne.
And you've been here
102 years.
Since he was born.
Dick Carlton, I've lived in town for 80 years.
Bob Derby, been 82 years.
John Makey, been here almost 80 years, not quite.
What are you supposed to tell how long we've been here?
Alec Gray, been here 73.
Al has on and off, probably 80 years.
Phil Anderson, 80 years.
Gene Rennell's 83, and I was actually born in Stowe.
Maybe two of us wanted
Oh,
so.
Billy, you were.
Frank
Concord.
Well,
Yeah, I was, but, yeah.
You had a good hunting dog when you were
86.
small.
Yeah.
Tell them that story.
Looks like we all have at least 80 in our years here or in town or born here. Was given a little copy of a ticket or something. It says sleigh ride and ball, J. Parker's Hotel in Stowe. Anybody know where that is?
J.F. Parker, was it J.F. Parker?
Just says J. Parker's
Probably on the
Hotel.
lake there, the Parkers lived over there, you know.
Yeah.
Emma Parker Scott, is probably that house.
The big old house down where she lived in.
What, she said she
What
lived
house
there.
did we
There's no house
kind of went
number.
over when that they moved or something and they were gonna burn it or some damn thing, John?
They moved a lot of those Parker cottages, remember they tore them down, maybe you
Yeah.
know there?
I think it,
Harvey Treffry was in charge of that crew.
why,
You know, there was Cedar Help, comprehensive
wow.
employment training act under Carter. They got a bunch of them here. Harvey was firing one every day.
Well, I can remember I looked underneath the house,
Maybe it's
porch, and I pulled out a homemade cooler. It was about so big, so big. And I still got it.
no,
And I don't know what we were doing. We were doing something over there.
we
Either
were
that or we were, me and maybe Ronnie Beeland or somebody, or Buster.
Yeah, plus,
Well-
he picked up the house anyway.
Yeah.
Well, with 80 years under your belt, you might not remember this. The date here is February 24th, 1846.
I don't remember.
That's probably not Lake Boone, because I don't think Lake Boone existed then. It was just Boone's Pond
Yeah.
that long
I
ago.
think the Parkers were there for a long time. It was probably 2-3 generations. Philly, you know, Philly, you don't know much about
Joe
the Parker.
Parker lived
No,
up in
Scott more or less that I know.
Huh?
Scott's still
Yeah,
there.
Emma Parker
Yeah,
Scott. She was
wow.
my sister. She lived to be about 100.
And the barn used to be across the street, you know.
that would be that old.
What's
There
that?
were-
Plus, I had.
There were some other,
He was
some other
related
names
to
on this.
Emma Parker.
That was a brother, wasn't he?
Moses Whitney,
He only had one arm. He used to drive
One arm.
with
Familiar?
Blue Bud.
Moses
Moses
Whitney,
Whitney.
Hold the wheel with
Oh.
his shoulder while he was.
Francis Conant,
There's Dudley. He even wears a hat.
Hey, right.
Jesus Christ, you're a gentleman.
I took
Charity
mine
at the
off.
end there.
He asked me to.
There you go, Mr. Frank.
If you're done, I wanted to say something, Lou.
Okay.
These people asked my question. Now,
Hey, Roy.
How you doing?
I picked up the Sunday paper a couple of weeks ago, and there's a picture of this dark-haired woman, and maybe some of you did, an obituary that had died. And I look at, gee, she looks familiar, a younger picture. Then I read the story on it. It was Dorothy Norma what the heck was the name of the art teacher? Jacobs.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
Oh,
Jacobs?
yeah.
You remember
Yeah,
him up-
teacher.
Yeah, and
Jacobs.
she died down south somewhere and married a Platt. Platt didn't have any kids, did she? Well, it might have been some relation, I don't know. But anyway, town reports that she taught art in Stowe in 36 and she got
She
through
was
in
our
40.
art teacher. She was all right, art teacher.
Yeah, Dorothy
Come to
had
Stowe
that
for one
Norma's
day.
name was, and she was, what, a week away from her 98th birthday. And boy, geez, I kept looking at that picture, she looks familiar. And it was 46, she left Stowe. It was a younger picture with dark, shiny hair. And she said she was a roving art teacher of 5 towns.
Right.
Yeah, she come to Stowe one day.
And it did say the towns, I assumed it was the ones that were in this union. You know, Harvard, Stowe,
Carlisle.
Bolton, Littleton, and Carlisle. And it was hard to get work during the Depression years, and she had gotten that job. And what she used to do, come around once a week or
Yeah, I
something?
think so. She come to
About an hour.
I can remember when she left, I mean,
Mr. Schultz came in after.
was there a, yeah, Schultz. I can't place him.
Tall, skinny guy.
So,
Art teacher, was it?
maybe you were on
I think it
her.
was after you
I remember
graduated.
her.
Yeah, 46 she left, so you were gone. Jeannie was gone too.
He and I were in the
He's come
same,
back 5 years.
he and I were in the same class.
Yep,
By the way.
all 10 of us.
All three. All ten.
Not many of you left either, is it?
Paul Smith, the only one I remember knows left. And he may not be either, I don't know.
What about George Gordon? Was he in your class?
He was in our class.
Gordon Cabo, he's still working.
Yeah,
He's still
that was in
Yeah.
our class.
He was
He was up the house 5, 6 years ago. He started in, looked at that stone up on Taylor Road, Tenny Stone.
Paul was the only one that came to the reunion, I know.
Yeah. He's in Pennsylvania, or somewhere. Yeah, I remember talking to him.
I know he lived, I called him, I was telling him.
The rest of the Smith boys are gone.
They're all gone.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Gene,
Doug-
where's the bomber? Whatever happened to the bomber?
I think it was down
I think down in
London.
Connecticut someplace.
Remember that thing?
He had the Brutko, remember that?
Yeah, the little Britko.
Oh, man, you
Hey,
still-
a
you
lot of
hear
us
that
learned
thing?
how to drive on that thing.
I seem like everybody was.
Yeah, some people guessed.
I was in awe. I'd be about this high looking at this big thing with all the big guys driving.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
They had a cigarette light on the
Scary.
dashboard, you could put all the way into the back seat, but it would light their cigarettes with. Pass everything but a gas station.
Was that 12
19-inch
cylinder?
tires on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jeannie, was that a 12 cylinder?
It was a V8.
V8.
It was LaSalle's, I don't think they were 12.
LaSalle, it was like
Yeah,
LaSalle, it was-
Cadillacs were- The Cadillacs were 12.
It was straight 8 though, wasn't it? Yeah, straight 8. Straight 8. Wasn't it straight 8?
It would be a V8, I think.
Huh?
I think it'd be a V8.
Back then?
Oh, yeah.
V8 didn't come out till,
Well, they
It
hand
was a
assembled them.
LaSalle, it would have been a V8.
huh?
Would have been
A
a
straight
V8. It'd be like- No, a
Oh,
V8.
V8?
Buick had to be a straight 8.
Okay.
And then Cadillac and LaSalle had
Yeah.
V8.
Oh, all right.
They stopped making it LaSalle's, what, 38.9 or 40 about that time?
Yeah, 41 possibly.
They looked small, the newer ones, I remember, they were streamlined. The old Lincolns, the 30s Lincolns.
You guys remember Mrs. Platt's Fierce Sparrow?
Yeah, it's a great big car.
Yeah.
Fierce Sparrow.
She was big enough for a car like that, too. I mean, a big woman.
Just tall.
Yeah,
Big
she-
bone.
Yeah, big
Person
bone, tall
time.
woman. That was a 38 Piers Arrows, last year they made them.
Yeah, yeah.
And they only made about 500 of them, I think, that year, and they went out of business. Very few of them made. That'd be quite an item today. if you
It's a
want-
nice thing to own right now.
Yeah. Pass everything but a gas pump of that.
She lived with Mrs. Fletcher
Yeah.
all week and would go home to Leominster on the
Come down West
weekend.
Stafford Road from Lemonstace.
Yeah.
Sunday nights. And she'd park in front of the high school and everybody'd be looking at it, you know. put that hood down, somebody have their head, I think it was your brother Don, he'd lift the hood up and look at the engine under there.
Now, speaking about gas, does anybody have a picture of the old gas ball?
Oh, boy.
Oh, geez.
There used to be postcards out
Right.
years ago. You remember seeing them? They had the gas ball on them?
Somebody must have had a picture of the fire. I mean, when that gas ball kept
That was in
going, picture on fire.
1962. That was
Should be,
60,
yeah.
61. The ball was still there.
Right,
Yeah.
the ball was still there.
The compressor station.
Yeah,
burned.
cut the little-
When did they take the ball down?
It was around the early 60s because that's when the natural gas, yeah.
You remember when they put it up? No.
Wasn't there too long, it was a
I
pressure
remember
station,
going past
Maynard,
where
I
the
guess.
school was.
My wife came from Scotland. The first night we ever come over the hill from Lake Boone and she saw it, she thought it was a extraterrestrial. She was terrified.
It had all been unhooked as soon as that natural gas came.
Down through.
And there was a tank out front. It was full of gas, buried. And that's what was causing that fire to burn in that compressor station. Eddie Pierce, you remember him with the gas company? They got a hold of him. He knew where the shut-off was. He had to do was frost in the ground. I came along one day in a pickup, and Billy Murphy was digging there, and I stopped. I said, you know, there's a tank underground here somewhere. What's the guy's name there, down the hill there? You know who I mean.
My friend,
Your friend, yeah, everybody's friend.
Armature,
No, right down back of the gas ball. He owned
back
that
of the
lot.
gas ball, right back, I forget.
He died,
Yeah.
just recently.
Yeah.
He wanted us to town to move the hill so the water wouldn't run into his driveway. One of the things he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we're not gonna do that tomorrow. And right away, you gotta do it, I'm a taxpayer. Keep paying your taxes, they'll take your house if you don't. Well, anyway, I came along, gee, Billy Murphy says, thanks a lot. He says, nobody knows that. And I don't know if there's anything in it or not, but still, it was a buried tank. Probably still there today. I don't know if they ever filled it. It's right out front. There used to be a little dirt parking in the front. Yeah, close to the road. Probably still there. Yeah. What the heck was that guy's name?
Where do you live down?
Right back of the gas ball.
Bags.
It started with an S. He,
When the new houses?
yeah, right on the right. We go
First
down
one
the
on the
right.
right.
Yeah,
Go down there.
down in the hole.
Right, right.
We finally put a little berm in front of his driveway. He was getting on the water.
I
LBU.
think that guy's name.
He was telling LB how to do it. I came along. Guy's in the house looking out the window.
Rebel chased him in one day with his knife.
Yeah.
You all better get out of here.
No, he's coming down the barn and he's gonna show Rebel how to plow snow too, Al.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna kick him in nowhere. And I walked in the door. Here he is with a knife.
Yeah.
I said, what are you doing with that? He said, you're gonna come down here and I'll fix him. I said, took the knife away. Then the phone rang, he wanted me.
They said when they was building that, the guy inside building it went crazy. He couldn't
Huh?
find a corner to pee in.
Oh, is that the one? Did they ever advertise the golf course and that gas ball? Was there any advertising?
Not on it, no.
Not on it.
Here's a big sign next one by the woman there.
No, it was on this end of the
Yeah.
road and on
Yeah,
the
as
other
you
end of the
come in,
road.
yeah.
Yeah, coming up over the hill, the other
Cases
one.
owned that to the point that where the gas ball was, I think there was 8 acres of land there. The town of Stowe used to own it because there was a schoolhouse there and there was one down the bottom of the hill originally. You know, the foundation's still there right at Randall Road and Boone Road. And then there was another one with the gas ball, and they turned around, what, 1928? I guess the kids set it afire, I've read. The schoolhouse up top, and the town sold a lot to the, was it the Hudson Marlboro Gas Company at the time, maybe?
I don't know.
Remember when Clark's had a candy factory down at the country club?
That was down the country club, yeah.
Yeah, it caught fire, they go there with hell, they pulled in, and he said, I said to myself, now there's a job for the fire department. I said, yeah, you wanna believe it?
Yeah, quite a candy factory there one time.
Yeah, you can find quite a few,
Somebody in my grade, in class used to work there and from Gleason,
Mrs.
the lollipops to school.
Makey used to work
Two
down there.
brothers on them.
She used to work in the kitchen down at the
Kitchen?
club.
Willie Nelson worked
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
his
Willie
brother.
Nelson, my brother.
That was black.
The Lead
Oh,
kid.
Darcy.
Darcy?
Yeah. He always had the lollipops. Said
Yeah.
two brothers stole mass on him. I remember the rapping.
Did the country club collapse or
Bob
something?
Nelson.
Did the roof fall in and that?
Yeah, and then he killed his wife.
Oh, yeah, Cox.
And then he killed
I
himself.
say, that was-
No, he got
Oh,
state
Ferris
prison.
visit.
He went-
What's it, Cox?
Did he kill his wife? I forget.
No, he stabbed her with an ice pick and hit her in the head with a hammer.
I thought he hung himself.
No.
Didn't want to bother her
He got-
with the
he got-
roof
he got-
cable.
The rest of his life. But half
She was
that
afraid
barn
he'd
at
ask
Freeland,
if he said
Georgia.
he
You
killed
I was
know,
I
he had a
was
barn,
working
Freeland,
with
Georgia, the bigger
Boy,
barn
Big
there.
barn, yeah.
That's half the barn at the golf
Yeah.
course.
And he had
He
a
told me that
tractor
himself. He
with
said he moved that. He said he was gonna
load
move the
on
whole
back.
barn, but he never got around to it.
Up to the garage.
That was the old man Cox when he owned it, because he owned the Westmore Grain Company.
Yeah.
And,
And the thing come up,
Oh, wow.
caught him in the
He
chin,
got
and
the
I
farm
started laughing. That
through
was the
him.
last day I worked for him.
he left in the will that he had first crack at the farm. He said, I only got half the barn over there. And the other half is still in
Jamaica
the golf
used to
course.
work for him.
Jamaica.
Yeah, he was, your ex-wife's cousin.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to keep our conversations just to one, so we don't confuse Ann with two of them going on at once.
Yeah, was it a major or colonel from that Boston Army base took that over?
Yeah, Colonel. He
Yeah,
had
it
it for a
had
while.
the Corps of Engineers up there. taking
Yeah,
care of
yeah,
it.
that's right, well, army trucks up there.
I guess they finally caught him and put him in the federal
His name
prison.
was Collins.
Oh, then my neighbor took over, Williams, lived across the street, Smelser sold a big house to Williams. And he was there a couple of years, and I think he went belly up, and he disappeared. And, yeah, Williams.
Johnny, would you tell me that wall along your property is moved out? His grandfather worked like hell moving it out?
Yeah, gained a little land.
Yeah, he gained a 50
He
land.
gained to 5 feet, 6 feet, on the West Acton Road, the wall is still there.
Yeah.
Barkley said that, I guess.
He said like that, like,
Joe
father-in-law, like hell.
He wanted a little extra land to move the wall.
You still raise hops?
No. Not much of a market for them.
No, I'm sure there is.
They wanted a good consistency in the hops. I called a couple of breweries, you know, and they get them from Oregon in bales, and we know what we're getting. So on the roadside, you don't know what the heck you're getting. There's some of them are old English hops. The guy came one day and he bought a big bag full of them. He knew more about beer making than all of us put together. And I walked out the car with him and looked, he's a minister. Sign on his plate. I said, I'll have to send him to your church, I guess. I don't know how to make beer, you know. He's
Billy,
laughing.
your father's whole farm was walled off in acre spots, and they grew hops up there.
Oh, is that right?
Remember how there were stone walls,
Yeah.
stone walls?
Yeah.
and stone
Wickham
walls?
Brothers.
It was totally divided in
The Wickham brothers were the ones that.
Wickham Brothers, and they did money up there. Life Tenney told my father when he's building the house on 29 up Taylor Road, life was still, he used to walk up and he told him
Yeah.
all about it.
So they made beer up there, and then I come
Well,
along
it
to
didn't matter,
drink
they
it.
sold the house.
You used to sniff gas too.
Well, that's what I think happened to that Ben Wickham, used to ride his horse, he got in that hop juice.
Skunky Rice used to be the one to make all the beer.
Yes, yeah.
I guess they've realized a pretty good profit on that. Those three of them brothers, I think they all hung themselves finally.
You ever remember when, or I don't know if it was common knowledge, when Skunky Rice used to go to Maynard
Yeah.
every Saturday night.
Every Saturday night get
And
drunk.
they go in the horse and wagon, it was a buckboard, so
Yeah.
it had the one seat in front. And they take him out, put him in the front seat, send the horse home.
Fleas and chicken.
And one night, Mrs. Rice heard the horse come in, so she went out to get Skunky, put the horse away, and there was only half a wagon. The back part of the buckboard was gone. And the people in Maynard was wondering, they found the back of the buckboard, but they didn't know where Skunky
You
was.
know where he got hit? Down below my house in the corner.
Got hit by a railroad train.
Yeah, well, he got hit by a train, but at that time, they took the whole wagon, him on the bottom, and the horse went home, dragging the shafts with him. Skunky was sleeping under the wagon.
Skunky arrived on Boxborough Road with the horse in the front of the wagon,
Yeah,
and his wife took him out.
well, this is the second
I
time.
used to do that a lot.
Yeah,
I can remember that.
our house on Taylor Road burned in 1948.
Sometime
They were
that,
putting in a bathroom system in the house, Paul Paquette, and the plumber's torch blew up and filled the house
Oh,
with
gas
gas.
torches, right?
And we had no telephone. He had to go all the way down to Carl Thompson's, call the fire department. They had to call in the number. It was at 2:30 in the afternoon because Bill's brother and I just got out of school, and it called in as a brush fire. So Joey and I ran all the way from the school up, and as we went up the hill, the house was burning. But they saved, this is in 1948 or 49, and it was ignited by gas, and they saved probably half of the house. The insurance company paid in full, which was $3,000, and they commended the town of Stowe for their firefighting.
And they carried hardly any water them days.
They just had the truck, and then they had to go back. There's no water up on the hill on Taylor Road. But we had a great fire department then, we do now, I guess.
You were with Harold Priest, I went through the fence over Kingland, weren't you, Jeannie?
Yeah, the guy said you're not gonna go over there, he
The guy
needed
would go to the
water.
gate, he went right through it.
He backed up and he says, hang on. He went like, wow, that's a little bit.
John
Get
and
out of the way.
John and I were on the back of the truck with Harold going down Leesdale Hill.
That's all right.
We had our arms wrapped around the pipe and our feet were just swinging. And then somebody complained and they went to the selectmen, and John and I couldn't ride with Harold anymore. But we would get out of school and run to the fire station.
Remember the fire in Bolton we went to that time?
Yeah, and they lost 2 or 3 houses.
Yeah, well, yeah, when we were up in the hill, we saved that one house. Clinton was pulling out of there, and there was a well, and they'd got the pump there. Jimmy Lund was driving, Charlie Carvel was
Yeah.
there. And the whole barn, everything went in that house, and 20 years later, I had the road job, I had some paperwork or something, I wanted to get a hold of the highway superintendent in Bolton, Battis. He said, bring it up the house, I said, where do you live? That was his house that burned.
Apparently, you say,
Yeah, and he said, my kid, one of the kids was just 2 months old or something. He's got a contracting business up there now, young Billy Battis. He hangs out in that, what's that restaurant in Bolton there?
Sylvester's.
Bottom of the
it
hill.
was Sylvester.
Was Sylvester's.
Huh?
Some-
Roadhouse, no.
Yeah, the Roadhouse.
Roadkill.
Roadhouse.
Roadkill.
Roadhouse.
Yeah, same idea. It's for sale now, anyway.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Somebody went to Freddie Ward and he said, Harold Priest drives too fast going to fires. He said, well, it all depends, but your house is on fire, not how fast it's going.
I don't know who we rode with after we couldn't ride with Harold.
Maybe we still rode with him.
No, we didn't.
Oh, I don't know.
So,
Geez, he come down that Gleasondale Hill one day when the store was on fire. And the
Oh, yeah.
Kids were on the, your brother was on the back. Every extinguisher went flying out the back of the truck around them corners.
Yeah.
Black marks, no Rio there. He must have been doing 60 with that whole
he didn't light up going down that hill.
Yeah.
He put the brakes right to the floor and grabbed the emergency brake and pulled it back. That'll stop it.
Weren't you
Big
with
old wheel
him?
engine.
Weren't you with him the night that he come up through Stowe Center there, up under the common, there was a car coming? Was you with him?
I don't think so,
Well,
no.
somebody was with him, he was on the back end, he couldn't get off there, he was just frozen. What's the matter with you? He said, we didn't get him. Right up on the common, down.
Who here knows why Monkey Street was called Monkey Street?
Oh, God, had all kind of stories.
I don't want your answer.
I didn't know it.
I heard there's some,
The story I heard, why it was called Monkey Street, a lot of kids lived, there was a family with a lot of kids. And every time you went up that road, the kids were in the trees. So the guys working on the town, my father was one of them, they nicknamed it Monkey Street.
like a bunch of monkeys, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, I lived there.
It was Monkey Street till when, the 50s?
No, it was up Monkey Street till one town meeting, a guy named Henry Tosti was there. He said, I want my road fixed, and they're gonna call it Ape Avenue.
Torsi?
Yeah, he said to Barkley, there's holes as big as my head on that road. He said, I don't doubt that you got holes in your head. I admit there's holes in the road.
There was a snowstorm in the 40s, and coming up our hill on Monkey Street, and all the way up Monkey Street, the snow was from stone wall to stone wall.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it opened up until they shoveled the hill.
Yeah.
They had a line of guys, and they shoveled the hill, but Mr. and Mrs. Nelson, they lived up farther than Bill, carried or
The old
pulled
place.
the milk on bobsleds. Mile and a half, 2 miles, mile and a half.
Yeah.
They'd pull it down so it could be picked up down by Carl Thompson's, so that the milk wouldn't go bad. And that road was closed probably the better part
The
of
road
the
you
week.
said, just beyond the turkey farm,
We used to leave, we didn't follow that.
you know, they didn't stop at his place.
It
and
was
turn
all
around and
dirt
back.
road. It was dirt road right to our
Yeah.
house.
Until somebody up there on the Harvard side wrote a letter to Congress from Philbin. And the selectmen got after Barkley, it's a public way, and he wants to use it, and you got to open it. And I remember I took the V up and opened it. Geez, that snow was deep and wet. A little Ford would go through, the Internationals would do nothing, it was no good.
In 1945, we had no water, no electricity, no telephone at the top of Lucky Street Hill.
Yeah.
And it was towards the end of the 40s.
That was
It came all the way, the electricity came all the way down to Sadie Beverly's house. And then there was still that one spot with about 6 houses had no electricity.
Capeman made his own.
Yeah.
Yeah, Capeman made his own, remember? Capeman had his
I know,
storage
I
batteries,
know.
yeah, had a generator there.
What's that?
How far up did Monkey Street go anyway?
All the way up to No Name.
Goes the Harvard line.
Yeah, it cuts off.
But that was open. There was nobody up there.
Oh, that's true.
I was on the highway, was working with Barkley right at the intersection of No Name Road and Taylor Road. I said, Barkley, how did No Name get its name? He said, I was here with the county engineer. The county just said, Barkley, what's the name of this road? It runs from here to Gardner. He says, it has no name. He said, well, it does now.
I remember ordering street signs for it, and the girl on the other end says, could I have the name of the road? I said, no name. Could I have the name of the road? I gave it to you. If you wrote that name, I said, yeah. How'd it get its name? I said, I don't know. I mean, explain it to him. And you just send them signs that way, no name. I think I used capital letters on the no on the name, and the ID on the end. I send them, you get paid for it. Almost said, that's an odd place to live. And he mentioned Monkey Street.
No, Monkey Street was odd.
Why would I hang us up?
But nobody knew Taylor Road.
Really, I remember, imagine Wally and Jake are long gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know, yeah, they bought, yeah, a long time, 10 years, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it's more than that.
None of those
Jake-
brothers are
Jake,
living
maybe
anymore.
20 years.
Yeah.
yeah.
None
And
of
then
those
John was probably, he died probably 15 years ago.
None of those brothers are living
None, no, more.
Huh?
Even Uncle Mort's gone, Uncle Mark. Yeah.
Oh, my.
He used to live over in West
What's
Acton
that?
Road,
Oh.
yeah.
You hot ticket,
Yeah.
a couple beers in him.
I gotta tell a story about, I'm sitting in the back seat of my father's 36 Plymouth on Sunday afternoon, going home, and, from church. And we're going to Carl Thompson's, and Carl Thompson used to always walk back to the house, to
Yeah.
the barns. He was in the
Light
middle
is
of
bright.
he's always in the middle of the road. So my father stops, and I'm sitting there, and my father says, what are you gonna plant this year, Carl? He says, I don't know, Eddie. He says, I haven't been making any money lately. He says, I've decided this year I'm gonna start planting house lots.
He'll make money.
And then he laughed.
Then after that, he started selling the house
He'd
lot
walk on
every
the
year.
road, down the road and light his pipe, and
Yeah.
he was standing there.
When we first had phones up there were 8 parties on the line. And Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were always leaving their phone off the hook. And we'd yell and yell, try to get their attention. Then we'd have to go down, knock on the door and say, you left your phone off again. No, it's on. And then you had to sort of push your way through the door and then point to it and say, no, it's not, it's right there.
And he's laughing all the time, always laughing.
But that went on always.
1936, I don't remember, but when we lived up there, they didn't have that road open for 5 days. They had a big snowstorm, and they shoveled it all the way, the whole length of Monkey Street. Gary Lawrence told me the same story. And there was a Majima, there's Torsty's, my father, Eddie Erkinen, and there's a Funderburg that lived in the Red House. You remember them, Gene?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else remembers
What was their name?
Funderburg.
They used to play
yeah.
baseball, LB. Remember?
And at the Koskela lived down the end.
Costco.
Yeah, then he had, that was the last of the houses. Your house wasn't there then. And they got as far as Koskela. I think he made some homemade brew there, and they lost the day there. And Gary said that was the end of the shoveling that day. And then they got down the bottom of the hill. They had town had a crawler tractor that was owned by Eamon Weatherby. The V on it was coming up the hill. Do you remember that?
The old V-Plow? Yeah.
Huh?
Remember the old V-Plow?
Yeah, Crawler, Eamon Weatherby owned it. Must have been, well, in the 30s. I guess that's all they had for heavy equipment.
But well, they used to, when I was a boy, they used to have to send guys out with a wood shovel
Yeah,
to shovel the top off
yeah.
so the plow could push. And that V-Plow was a good size one.
They still got that down, yeah.
Who remembers the 38 hurricane? That's my first memory.
I do.
I was 3 years old.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I lived in Waltham.
Do you remember what you were doing, or?
I remember standing on the porch, you know Mrs. T, the old nice white fence and all the thing? All her nice big maples and everything, they're just like matchsticks.
Yeah.
My mother and I
Yep.
stood on that thing and we watched them things go. Wow, I
Goes
couldn't
up to the-
believe it.
Did they lose some of the tall trees from Warren's Hill?
Yeah, I remember them
Yeah.
coming down. They must have lost a dozen or so. I remember them coming down, those things are over 100 feet tall.
Yeah.
You know, the green ones, and they'd come down and come back up again. And we had just moved in then.
Because in the 50s, there
I
was
just
still
finished
4.
feeding chickens.
When did the last one disappear?
Jack, I bet he was running around
And
there.
I don't know if he was home or not. I know I walked home after feeding the chickens, the wind was blowing like hell.
Yeah.
I didn't think much of it.
Great Road was
Till I
all
sitting-
plugged up, you couldn't even go up it.
Until I was sitting in my room, and a great big elm in front of the house went.
The
and that's
WPA.
when I all of a sudden said, there's something going on.
WPA from Maine had come up and was, would change and
I
cut it all
know,
up.
my father
And everything
was-
sort of clear the roads up.
WPA, the following year, they had the headquarters in our field there, all the toolboxes was lined up. The old man rented the land to the government, he probably got $1 a week for it or whatever. They sharpened axes and crosscuts, the old man sharpened crosscuts, he got a little more money for sharpened crosscuts, and maybe your dad worked there, I remember. And
yeah.
they had that grindstone, they pedal them all day and sharpen the axes. And there'd be a truck from Maine that'd bring a crew up, I remember
Yep.
that. And then there was 3 bus loads would come up from Arlington, to work for the WPA. They'd stop down the corner, and I remember one guy, he used to get off the bus, he had his lunch with him, go up in Warren's Hill and sleep all day behind the juniper bush until 5 o'clock when the bus come back, get on here and do nothing. Nobody missed him apparently.
Yes.
And, I mean, the Smelses had just moved in, we used to go up there and talk to the guy, you know?
We knew somebody that worked at the cemetery that used to sleep behind the stones while he was supposed to be working,
Oh, yeah.
when you and I worked up there.
Oh, yeah.
I won't name, I don't think names should be named, but we both worked up there, and when we wanted him, he was behind a
Oh, yeah.
gravestone sleeping.
I don't think it was me, I was too.
No, it
young.
wasn't you, you were too young.
I tell you what, one time we dug myself and Bobby Colleton we used to dig the graves by hand.
Yeah.
We got down here, it was nice and cool, so we laid there smoking cigarettes for a while. It was the middle of July. We fit right in there smoking cigarettes.
A lot of stories to be told about up there.
Yeah.
Oh, Frank
Robinson and your grandfather
caucus.
or great-grandfather had their graves all dug. And they put cement boxes, they built cement boxes, and then put covers on them.
And
then they waited.
He used to tell me, you're not gonna make any money on me, because I dug my own grave.
Yeah, they dug their own grave.
He was a big, tall man, and he had dug down about 6 feet, too. I went up there when they, still the priest opened it. His footprint was in the bottom of the line.
He used to sit on the grave waiting.
Yeah.
We'd be working in the
Come every
cemetery.
day that walked through, they scared the heck out of you once there, I think it was.
Well, he had both of us terrified about on Hillside Cemetery, there's an iron fence, or there was. And he told us there was a snake this big in it.
There was a big snake.
Well, we never cut it, so,
Are you talking about the one across from Crescent Street?
yeah.
I saw the friggin' thing.
Well,
I
we-
still remember it
It was
vividly.
big, it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah,
that
it
big.
was big, I don't know, but
Well, it could
I don't know
be-
if it's the same one, but
it
Jesus
couldn't be
Christ, it
Frank Robinson.
You didn't take time to look at
scared
it,
the
huh?
shit out of me. I never mowed that area
We
again.
never mowed it.
No. Because of the, when the boat walk, what is it, a ball, whatever the hell it is.
Stokes come
Yeah.
along, I'll mow it, I said, watch
Yeah.
out for the snake. I
He
looked,
didn't
he
mow
took
it.
off, too, he didn't mow.
Every time I go by, I think of that friggin'
Andy Lasser was on the committee, he said, you guys aren't mowing that lot. I said,
Yeah,
"Hey,
not going to.
no. You get in there, yeah, that little fellow won't bother you.
No.
They mow it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the right-hand side, long hatches wall there.
Who's buried in, I don't know.
Whitcombs.
Whitcomb is up.
Grant?
One, yeah.
One at the, right near the.
There's 2 of them up there, yeah, they're Whitcombs.
We opened them one day to,
Used to keep the
Well,
lawnmowers
maybe
in
not.
one of them. On the rigs, they had no pickups, so you keep the stuff in there for 3-4 days until you got done and so forth. And Frank Whitcomb worked there, and he was a relative of Frank. Remember Frank Whitcomb? Yeah. He said, these are my relatives in here. Take good care of them. That's the one that used to ride his horse up and down the road.
to the backyard.
Yeah. And, you come from that place, Billy. You can see you on the horse, you had a brute going.
Old Ben Whitcomb.
Yeah. He hung himself on the big pines on the top of the hill.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Whitcomb.
Yeah. That's in one of the town histories.
I got the book, I got the whole book.
Yeah.
It was put out by Sears. Sears Estate in Harvard, the Fruitland.
That was a handy paper for the outhouses.
There's a whole book on it, and I went and asked for it, and they knew nothing about it. I said, your original boss wrote it, found one.
We used to keep one out in the outhouse
Yeah.
till the next one comes.
Then they let him out.
I don't know
They
that.
let him out, he went home, and it was the middle of winter when he jumped out the window onto the pine tree.
But they forbid him to ride with his brother's skull, so he put it in the bag and still rode.
The cemetery.
Yeah.
Well, I own this property here. His heirs did, he didn't own it, but I guess he used to collect the rent of those houses.
They looked for him for about a week.
Yeah, he was hung up in the cemetery.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. You remember Gene Lawrence?
Oh, yes.
Every Halloween, he loaded his shotgun with rock salt for all of us.
He has to burn his haystack.
Well, the police told us how to light his field on fire with a cigarette and a pack of matches. But he would be waiting, and the police were waiting to get him shooting at us.
He used to complain about it burning out, and somebody told him, why the hell you do it during Halloween? Do it after Halloween, then nobody would touch it.
We tipped his outhouse over one year.
Oh, I remember that.
That was a-
Jeannie, were you involved with the time that Andy blamed us for no, I guess it wasn't Andy, but somebody was blaming us for setting the fire down there, setting the hay on fire?
That was Peter's hay one, I used to move this down here.
So, he
Down
said,
Lawrence's?
it wasn't us, because Andy said, no, those boys weren't there. But I can tell you, I can tell you who it might be. You might have been involved with that. I remember George and Arthur Patterson, Henry, they're just the next grade up from us. They set up.
Speaking of Andy, I was going through town with 2 or 3 other kids. Remember, we used to race from Maine to Hudson and all that. There's 3 or 4 of us racing through town, and this is when Andy had his old Ford. He didn't have one. So anyway, I'm going, one kid goes down to the Hudson, the other one goes, I decide to go straight, and I turn up onto Harvard Road, and I shut my lights off, of course, I'm right. And then I said, I'm okay, so I put my lights on. I'm going down the hill where Cobbles live. Next thing you know, lights come over, and the car's mounted, because I'm going too slow, and I stop, and there's Andy with a gun. Andy's sitting in the fence looking at me with a gun. So he also drove the school bus. So he didn't say, he just said, you better get home, young fella. So anyway, I go home. Next morning, I'm at school, he says to me, he's driving the bus, he says, hey, Billy, come here. And I said, well, he says, almost plugged you last night.
We always knew what went on the night before on the school bus, because Andy picked up Monkey Street.
Yeah.
And every morning, Andy would tell us everything that went on the day before.
Almost plugged you.
By Corey, I almost plugged you last night.
With a 22, right? 22 pistol.
Anybody
That's all he
remember?
carried.
That we had.
That's what he had?
Yep, that's what he carried, 22s.
Anybody remember when he did traffic duty in 1940?
Yes, I had.
All the brass.
Peter.
Peter Lassie.
Peter
Peter
Lassie.
Lassie,
Peter.
yeah.
Well, he
Down
had that
here.
little thing he'd wheel up from behind.
Yeah, but somebody pushed that down the hill.
Well, what
He
happened,
knows.
my father was on duty with him.
Yeah.
He had my father
Yeah, he was a
stand on
constable.
the common, and he stood in the box.
Of course, there were no cars in 1939.
Well, not that many, but there was cars. And he wanted him to go between the demi cop that was there and the police box,
Yeah.
and Howie Lewis's gas stations. And one of them hooked onto the box and dragged him down the road.
Yeah.
So he went nuts. So my father went and told him that, well, there's not room. The truck had to go
Yeah,
around.
right.
And so he said, oh, that's the way they do it in Boston, my father suggested. So he says, all right, we'll bring the box back up. I'll stand on the common and you stand in the box.
But you could walk from Stowe-Center to Hudson Road without a car ever.
Oh, yeah, we used to play, I ice skate in the winter, I ice skate from my place in Lower Village all the way down to the main bus barn
Yeah.
on the road.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but it's very, very few. We could play a ball game in the street. No cars.
Your brother was telling me, Dick, that him and Bobby Peterson both have Model A Fords.
Yeah.
And he says they got up here by the town hall. Peter's in the block, so they come down the hill wide open. They went both sides.
Both sides of
And he was
Jesus, I was in the car with my brother. I
Your
couldn't
brother
believe that.
told me that.
Jeez, here we
Probably
go. He's out there blowing whistles.
Yeah, that was fun. He said, no, he didn't know who it was.
No, no.
They're trying to get a number.
He was.
I was interrogated by Peter once.
Yeah.
There was the young Page girl
Yeah.
was missing overnight, and he came to the high school, and he was in the library, and he, one by one, all us young men had to go in and be interrogated.
State trooper with him.
You know, he took my license, you know. But I was speeding down through town and he see me, so he come down to talk to my mother and he said, I'm gonna take boy's license, he said. He said, me better take license, he said, than Ray should take license, so. My mother calls me and said, Chief wants to see you. I said, oh, Jesus. Knew that. Sure enough, Peter said, okay, he said, I take license, he says. And I go, well, what for? He said, because you speed through town, and you learn, you can't go speed. And I say, yeah, okay, I give him a license. 1 week, he said, I come give a license back. I said, all right. So then my mother said, boy, you're lucky, because if you sent it to the registry, you would have lost it, you know?
Of course, Peter had no license.
I know he didn't.
Peter had no license.
Give it the end, you come down, it was funny as
I
hell.
was down in court one day, they get mileage with nobody owned car. They said, how far was it to Stowe? And this, her name was, she was the senior clerk, she's been there for years. She said, I'll tell you how far it is. So I got an argument with Peter Larson about how far was it Stowe. Peter says, go right out front of the building, look to the left of the big granite block that says Stowe, 10 miles. I can't argue with that.
I used to pick apples for him.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, yeah.
I went to police association. I belonged to it way back years ago. We went to the bad boy school up here.
Oh, Shirley? Oh, but Lyman.
Yeah, and I don't know what the hell was I gonna say.
Frankie, I used to chase those girls when I was up in Bolton on the farm.
Yeah, but it was boys before the
Clarence
girls.
Steele was a cop, and they used to go up and they'd send me behind all the stones, looking for the kids, you never found them.
Oh, yeah, we're there and the two, I don't know what town they were from. There were two policemen sitting in front of me. And one says the other, he says, I hear that chief of police never drove a car. And the fella said, yeah, you're right. But when he walks into a courtroom, he said, the judge will stand up and say, good morning, Mr. Larson. He said he knows the law and he...
Hey, how many of you remember old George Hutch in Marlboro used to be chief?
Remember of him, I don't remember.
Huh?
Yeah, I remember when being chief.
You
I
remember
didn't
his
know him,
name?
I remember the name.
Yeah, he was there for what, 20-something years. Heck of a nice guy. Him and Addie were good friends. I used to talk to him a lot.
Yeah.
Come through town, and he said the court in Marlboro, the police station was in where the court was.
Yeah.
And he says, everybody get there when Peter had a case. He says, it was hilarious, really. He says, he'd bring in a half a bottle of whiskey. And the judge said, you know he's drinking. I got the evidence right here, half of it's gone. Fight him, you know. He walked out laughing, you know. Everybody thought he got quite a kick out of
Back
that.
when
George said,
Bonesy Nyhope was on the police department with me.
yeah.
I was talking to his nephew one day, he said, yeah, Bonesy's nephew. Yeah, he's on the police
Oh, a
department.
big cow.
Big guy, yeah. And he'll tell you all about your uncle. He says, I got a call to get down with Maidstone Line. There was a dead dog down there. Get down there, Bonesy was there, and The dog was in Stowe. I said, Bonesy, if he wasn't here, that dog would be in Maynard. He said, how the hell did you got him in Stowe? He said, you know what he said? We wouldn't dare do that nowadays.
Yeah.
You can't, you gotta be strict, you can't raise any hell, you can't have fun, you can't be nothing, you know?
Tibby, remember Tibby and I home?
Oh, yeah, I worked with Timmy.
He was-
Rico, hunting with him.
Oh, yeah.
Did you with Timmy? Yeah.
Yeah, we once,
Yeah, he was telling me one time, he said, he's down, they live next to Bill Salo down in Maynard.
right.
Yeah.
The my home farm, and
Yeah.
Bill says, I'll beat up any cop in Maynard. No, he says, I'll bring my brother-in-law, he got the gloves, you know, he's a boxer.
Yeah.
And he said, they got the gloves on with Bill, and got Bonesy hit him 10 times with Bill swinging. Bill hit the wall, the house would shake. He got mad, he said he took his gloves off, and he picked Bonesy up by the neck and the seat of the pants, kicked the door open, he went flying right out the door. You remember Bill?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Big guy.
He was just a little fellow, Bill.
Yeah. And I went out the other door, TV says, I figured I was next, you know? I used to tease him, he said he'd catch me, he'd spin me up in the air when I was a kid. And he'd take, what, 3-4 bushel of apples, pick them right up,
Oh,
put them
easy.
on the truck, yeah.
Easy.
Nothing to it.
I used to work up CDs and he'd always have me go with him. God, you know, he was a big guy. And he always would stop at the Avalon Club in Maine. He said, come on in, he said, we'll have a drink, you know, we could, I'd have a tonic and he'd have a drink, you know. I'll never forget it, that's how we got. And the next thing you know, I said, won't the boss be kind of mad? He finds all this. He said, oh, no. He said, the boss will probably be in here pretty soon looking for me. Sure enough, he go walking in the door. I couldn't believe it. And I said, well, he says, you and Bump there, he said, when you get done, he says, you go up there and take off that load, he says, and you go up to New Hampshire and get another one. Okay, so off we go, we take the truck off, unload it, and we go out there. He used to always call me Bub. CD did. Okay, Bub, he said, we're gonna do this today.
CD used to have private dances there in Stowe in the summertime, and you had to be invited. And this is going back to Skunky Russ. Skunky never got an invitation. So one night he came and started to go in the door and they wouldn't let him in. And it was a warm summer night, like all these windows open. And all of a sudden, about an hour later, the dance ended. Skunky went and got a skunk. Shook it up outside all the windows. Just dropped it. Skunky went home and everybody at the dance went home.
Them days, you find skunks, everybody had a dump in the backyard, and the skunks.
And he could catch him without,
He grabbed him by the tail.
he never got sprayed.
Well, he did, it didn't bother me.
He never smelled it. He smelled beer. If you had a beer anywhere, Skunky knew it.
Yeah, he could smell that from,
Jack Derby used to like to go out and shoot skunks.
yeah,
Get in the chicken house.
yeah.
I know one night.
After the
there was a
war,
skunk-
we were
there was
in
a skunk in
band
the
dances
chicken house.
in that old town hall for 2 years.
He took a shotgun out.
Yeah.
He says, I'll take care of it. Didn't kill the skunk, but killed 6 chickens. Jeannie knows, he knows more about that.
Yeah, he had a rat, he had a rat cornered, and there used to be like a really outhouse in the first floor. There's a rat in the corner, so he got his shotgun, both barrels, he blew up.
He couldn't have hit it, he shot it. But he tried.
Yeah.
The White Steiner down in Maynard there, you know, on Mason Street.
Yeah.
And Dick White was telling me, my daughter married his son. Dick died last fall. And he says, Jack used to come in there with eggs in his pocket. He said, I'll have them more lightly right in the diner. Wouldn't buy the eggs from them, but he didn't try his eggs. He had eggs in his pocket. He's sitting on top of the sprayer on the roof. Remember, we used to ride on the old Ford roof sagging. How the heck did he stay on there? Never fell off.
I used to go mowing up in Bolton with him. I'd be on the mowing machine, one of these, hitch onto the Jeep.
Yeah.
And he'd take off down the orchard, I'd, my God, you gotta hold on. He'd head for a tree, and I'd say, hold it, Jack. Whoosh. Well, I didn't want that tree there anyway, it was going kind of in the wrong place.
Thank God
I don't remember
that
doing
ball would
bouncing
drop
up.
off if you hit something hard.
Oh,
Yeah, thank God, it would boom and drop.
Oh, good Lord.
It was Eddie Say would just tell me, he worked for him one time, got up there at noontime and worked, Jack's eating. what do you want me to do? I said, see that chicken out there? You go chase him around. He said, I'll be out in a little while. And I was out there chasing the chicken for about 20 minutes. I never caught him. Now let's go, he said. We hopped in the Jeep, I guess, headed for Bolton. He drove through Stolen Brook.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
He'd go loaded with shavings from the chickens, dry stuff on the Jeep, on the tractor, head for Bolton. I mean, you couldn't see behind it because you get the load, half the load would be gone. Because it's being spread over here. They had nice green side of the roads from the stove to Bolton, right where he went. Because he used to take it every day.
him and Ed Stoll made a good pair.
Yep.
Geez, didn't they?
He brought me and Arthur Graff up there to work picking apples one day. It was probably noon time, if I remember right, it's a Saturday. So we go up there, next thing you know, it's 8 o'clock at night, Arthur and I are walking back to Stowe because he forgot about us.
Yeah.
And there was no cars back there, so
Yeah, you couldn't.
you couldn't hitchhike.
Used to haul apples down to the corn store, and you get caught between your two uncles. I don't want them boxes of dimmies, the bottoms keep falling out. Jesus, Uncle Jack, Uncle Jack sent me down there with them.
Put him at the end of the row.
Yeah.
The other guy's going first.
Yeah.
I remember one time, your brother Roger and I was working for CD, sent us a load of apples to Jack Ludd. They were rotten, the juice was running out of them. He had an apple concentrate place or something downstairs.
Yeah.
Jack says, what do you want me to do with them?
And you ain't peas, yeah, they.
Gramp says, he says, you have to sign for them and so forth. I'm not gonna sign for them. You get on the phone. Jack says, take them down by the river and just pile them up there. They'll dump them in there later.
Yeah, they used to make apple concentrate.
Yeah. CD told them that you take them, you know? Didn't argue.
No?
Roger said, he said, don't come back with them.
Gee, do you remember you and I and Al Fletcher picking apples on bowl, just the
Yeah.
three of us? And Jack says, you make sure you keep track of them, you should pick, we get paid by the bushel.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we went up, he said, how many bushel do you get? I told him 100. He'd look at you, 100. I says, they're all marked out there, check them. Okay, so then you went up, how much you get? 100. Oh, he says, no, come on now. I go in and check them, your name's on them.
Yep.
So I call Al, he says, no, I know Al, I won't cost you much. How much you get, Al? 100. And he says, you're talking about 100.
Yeah.
Because we finished our 100, we helped get Al his 100, so we matched him on the bottom. Well, he never got away. He never paid for 100 bushel.
Yeah.
But they were there, we did it.
They go by there, they can't figure out where the road is that used to take us into that orchard.
Went right
When
into the
they
school,
put the
now, you know where the
school-
school goes in, there's a little pond right there in the
Yeah.
center? You go down that road, and the school, I guess, is built
Onward, a lot.
on where the road was that went in the orchard.
Yeah.
Then there was one on the other side, over on the Berlin Road,
Yeah.
but I go by that and I can't find it.
Yeah, it comes in the back side.
Yeah.
Was there somewhere there where the church wasn't it?
Well, it's beyond church, I think it was right across the street where,
Clemens' Arches.
From the police station.
who the heck was it? Who was the family that lived in Stowe when they moved to Bowl? They had three.
Campbell's.
Campbell's.
Yeah.
Campbell's.
Right across the road,
Yes,
it was right
from
across
there.
the street from their house.
Where they lived.
Freddie Christensen lived
Yeah.
there the last
Yeah,
time.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But I think the school was built, that new school was real right on the road.
Right on it, yeah. I can't even picture the hill out there.
Oh, God,
Was that part of
Not
Andy
much
Moore?
left, huh?
That was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it part of Andy Moore?
Oh,
Andy Moore's
that's
in
all.
Long Hill, that's in Long Hill.
I know where Andy Moore
Yeah,
is.
yeah, but this is a.
I didn't know whether it was
This
one
is
side.
Bolton, no, Bolton Center, where the school
Yeah.
is. Comes out there below
Yeah.
Clemens Orchards, what's that, Berlin Road, the other one's West Berlin.
To learn to drive that old homemade tractor of his, and they had the trucks in the orchard.
I mean, that was an operation and a half, I'll tell you. There's no question.
Dave Smith was telling me every time he went up for a load of apples up there, Bonazoli would get them because he had no plates in the truck. So I
Yeah,
had to
that's
call-
right.
Yeah, I asked to call Emily up to bring some plates, and Bonazoli wouldn't let him go. The Jack would go up and holler at him. I gotta get, yeah.
We used to haul grain, live with grain, Farm Bureau stuff, all over.
Yeah.
always sat in the roof of the truck, I mean, on the fender of the Jeep.
Yeah. He'd go, he'd leave the post office when down in Stowe Center. And he'd head for home, he'd go to the wrong side of the road, just coast into the air.
Warren Smith used to do the same.
Go by Warren Smith. He'd blow the horn on the wrong side of the road, go like, no traffic. My mother used to say, come on, there he goes, crazy.
Yeah, Warren used to come to the house when he was still his town treasurer then. My wife did all the work for him. He didn't understand this Blue Cross and stuff. He'd bring all the work to the house for him. And he'd always come with the heavy traffic, you know, at night, 5 o'clock. He'd aim the car over there. If I was out in the yard, he'd hit the door open, he'd back up across the road and hit the bank, and he knew he had to stop. One night he backed in front of a woman, she slammed the brakes on and the blower. What's she want? I said, you backed out in front of her. Why don't you go home and make supper? Then he goes down the left-hand side of the road with his left blinker or right blinker going. The woman didn't know what to do, followed him down. He made it home, I guess, all right.
Yeah, he managed to make it time.
He didn't drive, I don't think he drove, he just aimed.
Yeah, well, Jack was about the same.
Yeah.
Well, we've been at it for an hour.
Have we?
We have drinks and so forth, so we don't have to be dry and some snacks.
Richie Collett wanted to talk about Gleasondale a lot, but we haven't heard nothing about Gleasondale, what went on there years ago.
We're not finished, we're just taking a little bit of,
I don't know.
What happened to Gleasondale School? When did that disappear?
George Morey tore it.
They built the Sunday school, I believe.
George Morey tore it down.
Did he?
The town said it was condemned
Yeah.
so that they could build Parker Seneca.
I got the,
Oh, is that right?
And that was
I'll give you a
no
chunk
longer
of
right.
that,
It was never condemned, I know.
I got
They even rented the wooden building in Bolton,
No, I
the
get
police
the
station,
full
didn't they?
legal
Put two of that down.
that's what I got.
George Morey tore the one down.
He's still got the blackboard.
Tore the house down next to the garage.
And when you were over there, there was Mrs. Isaac.
Oh, okay.
And then when you left there, it was,
Good, good, how's Rita?
Good, good, yeah, okay.
Mr.
In my
Walker.
class.
Remember that, but I couldn't remember what she was.
We're gonna have some
Yeah,
water,
and
root beer.
then,
Water, what do you want? There's some water.
You need some water too, don't you?
a few waters here.
They got root beer.
Urban here.
Wow,
And
wow.
then there was, Mr. Randall last year at one time.
Yeah. Are you pouring? Just a little, that's all.
You know, in fact, when I retired, they threw a retirement party. I retired, they threw a retirement party for me. And I just got out of having the flu.
I have the flu in my left hand.
I couldn't drink, you know. So now I
The
get
last
you in.
time that I saw him,
And I woke up the next morning with the biggest, and I just said, oh, yeah, ginger ale.
Oh, boy. My Jesus, you're right on the stick.
Helga Nielsen.
Hey, do you remember
When you was in the service.
Regina?
We got a phone call, somebody got a phone call
I
that
had Helga Nielsen in the 4th and 5th
Bill
grade.
Anderson had to report back to
Oh,
the.
yeah.
Well,
Do you
we had
want a
4
putt?
grades, and the year I was in the 4th.
blind bro.
they sent
Who
us
the hell
over
come
to
up?
Pilot Grove.
Wally and I?
No, Laurie, sent,
We came.
oh, Billy, what are you doing? The Clark kid that worked for him.
Just trying to stay alive, that's all.
He found out. So he knew where we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Duffy
And then.
kid
when I
was
went
living
into
around
sixth
here,
grade, we had
we used to
Regina.
station kids.
Yeah.
Just stay
Working harder.
Every man of age would get this kid, I live in hell. What the
High school.
what the hell they do?
Let's try to
Yeah.
get back to,
Ah, yes.
let's get back into one conversation.
Everybody
so we can-
everybody remembers her.
Let's get happy upstairs.
Yeah, Richard.
Let's get Richie
And then
to talk about
she
Gleasondale.
left there.
What's he talking about?
Richie's trying to talk about Gleasondale.
The
Gleasondale.
best historian of
John wants to know
Gleasondale
all
is
about
Stowe today. I think so.
Well,
He's probably spent the most time there.
we,
we knew everybody in town, we knew what everybody did in the mill. My father was a spinner over there, and then Mr. Byron was the foreman in the spinning shop. And then they had the weave room in the low building that was over on the other side of the other end of the building. And Smiths and Normandin and all those people, they all worked in that part of the mill. And Bill Brown, he lived in the yellow house where DePietro is now, the first house across the bridge. Bill Brown lived there, that's Marion Fletcher's grandfather. And then the next house was Gilbert, lived in.
Was there a little store right there somewhere at one time?
Well, that was Weatherby store.
Okay.
And that was that house that they tore down and built that other one right
I
next to the
don't
road.
remember the store, I remember the.
And Paradise lived in the next house.
Paradise. That's where he
And
lived.
then there was Hallowell, Thomas. Thomas was a boss in the mill.
Okay.
And Brunel was another one that lived over there.
Oh,
And
bosses.
Spears moved from the farm down to the middle apartment there in the block. And Clarence Priest lived in
remember
the
him
end
living-
place. And there was Reels that used to live up on the hill there.
Didn't the Cassies live up in the, where the farm?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they bought the farm, Spears moved down on the thing. And then
I remember him hauling the wool.
McDonald's lived across the street from the block there. He was the superintendent of the mill. And, let's see, who else?
Actually, somebody told me that it wasn't this Gleason family you talk about, ran that mill the last. It was some relative of theirs. Fuller, was it?
Well, it was Fuller's that lived in the big house across from the store there.
Okay.
They had a groundskeeper that lived in the White House, and then the big house had an elevator in the back because he was a paraplegic, and she was a Fuller. I mean, she was a Gleason, and I think her mother was a Whitney.
Was she related to Howard Gleason, the
Yeah,
cousin?
they're cousins or
The
something.
cousin, okay.
And then, of course, the Gleasons lived up in the two big
I
houses.
always heard,
down
I
the
always
hill.
heard that the Gleasons ran that mill, but it was actually the
It
Fullers.
was a different branch of the family.
Yeah,
They're doing
okay.
that next to the Gleason's on the corner, they're doing, hell, must be a hell of a job. They got-
Howard
That's
Gleason's
where-
place.
That's where Howard
Dumpsters,
Gleason used
that's
to
what they've
live.
been working all winter.
Yeah, well, this little house was gonna do it there, but it was gonna cost them more money than they had. so. And then Keeler Rice lived up on the hill there, he was the town lawyer. And Frank Hale lived in the house in the fork in the road there. And Gonyas lived down past the church, and Melkits lived down on the end of Railroad Street.
Okay.
You remember anybody with the name of Tizzard?
Timmy Tizzard, yeah, they lived in,
Timmy
when we
Tizzard,
first
yeah,
moved there,
yeah.
he lived in the brick house.
Only thing I know about him, tell you, was tap dance.
But he
He
had
was a
danced,
tap
did he
dancer.
dance?
Tap dance, boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah, tap dance, yeah.
He and,
He lose a leg in the war?
Yeah.
he lost his leg in the war,
Yeah,
Yeah.
cut off at the hip.
yeah,
And he was only in a very short time when that happened.
yeah.
And then
I
when
think I've
Holmes-
seen him.
when the Holmes took over the brick house, Tizzards moved across the street in the block, and Annette's lived on the other side.
Yeah.
Awfully one would ever happen.
And he lived in Hopkinton, and he died not too long ago.
Is that right?
Yeah. Then there was Doyle's, they lived in the block next to Byron's. And
Byron always lived in that house long as you
Jim
remember?
Doyle was retired from the mill. He was some kind of a boss there, the weave room or something.
Everybody was a boss in there.
And then his daughter worked at LaPointe's. And Mrs. McCarty lived next door to us, and she delivered Marion Fletcher and her brother, and her granddaughter Betty. And Hapgoods lived this side of there.
That would be Jane's sister-in-law. Marion asked me what he did for a living. I said, I don't think he did anything.
Who was McCabe, or was it McCabe was the janitor down
Oh,
there?
Mr. Cave. Yeah, that was Mrs. Annette's father.
Okay.
He had another daughter, married a guy by the name of Tansy.
Yeah, that was,
Tansy on Crescent Street, married Doris Dudley.
Yeah.
He was a
yeah,
Tansy.
well,
Yeah. he was
they
really-
lived in the end of the block when we first moved there, and Mrs. Tansy was Mrs. Annette's sister.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And
Doris
we had
was your cousin.
A daughter, Bernice, and the son was Roger, I think.
Roger Tansy,
Yeah, she married
I think they're both
Roger.
gone, Doris and
Roger
him.
was,
Oh, Roger's still alive.
Roger's still alive?
He's up in, right up in the Hampton,
Yeah,
Hampton. He's got a mobile home park up there.
Yeah.
And then down on High Street, Donaldson's lived up on the corner, and across the street was Mr. Byron's father. And then around the corner, Bruce's lived, and Sawyer's, Rita Chacoin lived with them. And then the house on the other corner of High Street, down by Marlborough Road, DePaulo's lived there. She was a redhead.
Now that, where Kelly the plumber was there.
Oh, yeah, that was before him.
That was the Bemis place. It was the Bemis's.
Yeah, they had the farm down on Hudson Road. I'm not Hudson Road, Old Marlborough
Oh, the
Road,
farm down there.
yeah. And it was on the right-hand side, right after you went over the railroad tracks.
Oh,
Who lived in the house that was Patton, Stowe and Patton Hudson? Right at the
Well,
line.
Weatherby's lived there for a
Really?
while, and then Maycumbers moved in there.
Brinley, wasn't there Brinley in there?
Uh,
That name?
Yeah, he was in the Navy, wasn't he? He
Did
went
he
in the
live in
Navy
that?
before the
Brinley's
war.
live in that half, next to Roland Wright.
Warren Brinley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Tamlin's lived in that house before Roland Wright.
Who?
Tamlin. And she had one leg shorter than the other, about that when they had a shoe built up so she could walk.
And
I
hard
don't know
climbing
what you
the.
mean, I used to see, you could see it walking on the street.
And then the Bavises lived in the house that Graff lived in.
I see, he just died, and I guess he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago.
And then Heberts
Yeah.
were there after
Was he in
that.
your grade?
Yeah.
But all those people worked in the mill,
Mm-hmm.
most of them.
Gussie Graff,
I
the
saw
last
that.
of the Graff family.
He was the youngest, yeah.
I remember when they had the mill there for making the wicks.
They,
Oil burners.
J.P. Stevens bought them out
Older brother, youngest
about
brother.
1930 or so. And they, Mr. Spear used to go over to North Andover with a truck and load
Brother also.
the wool over to the
He could engine over a
mill.
pump shop.
Yeah, 'cause,
That, you know, that was.
Jerry Sprague used to work in there
Yeah.
nights,
He wound up
making
with
wicks for the burners.
Yeah, so I was thinking Jerry Sprague. You
Oh,
know,
that was,
Down-
oh, yeah, that was down over the.
I worked, I didn't
Brake
work, I
line.
had to go
Brake
and
line,
stay
right.
during the night.
Right.
Hands
That stuff would get.
Right.
Hand slips.
Hand slip on the other-
They had a wick shop.
Other place on.
Yeah,
uh,
we're left.
by the
Boy, that
church
was
there,
something.
that- And it
Yeah,
burned.
they
The one that
still
burned.
alive. Everybody
Burned,
else
yeah.
got one can.
But then they went up the street and they
I
built
want
that
to
one
break in
down.
a little
Yeah.
bit here on Bob Hanslip.
Hudson side.
Just before he died, I met him down to Shaw's. He had baked bread, I was buying bread, don't bake it, I got 3-4 loaves
We'll
of
have a
it.
pig in the cemetery,
Vehicle is his
right on
car.
the corner.
He said, what did you
One
ever do
road
with
this
that
way,
toilet?
one road that way. and then
Outhouse.
Half good is right.
1945, when the veterans came home, the middle of the night,
Where did they
got
ever
Bud
move? Where did he
McCaskey's
ever
truck.
move to?
And Torsty
Was he
from
in
Taylor Road, he hung with him, and
Massachusetts,
Bob Hanslip, they went to
Go up
Hudson Rod and Gun
country.
Club, and unloaded a double door
One of
toilet,
the
double
Scraggs
seater.
worked.
Nice one, had plaster inside.
I
they went out country.
Common down here,
Who
two
was
o'clock,
one
nobody
of the
around.
Scraggsy?
I remember I was going to school in the morning, somebody said to me, you want a toilet? I said, sure,
I
they
think
dumped it
they
over
did.
the
That's what I
house.
think it was.
Yeah.
So he had, he
There
knew
was,
that we
that
had it,
was a
and I
hot
said, you know,
fire.
they came after that a week later.
There's a couple of big
50
fires
years, I didn't know
in
where it
Gleasondale.
came from, and he told me
the old
that.
days. And there's
The
lots
rest
of
them
water
on, I must well tell
in
you,
Gleasondale.
you know, We had fun with that. We
Why the
figured they
fires?
needed
Yeah.
a toilet on the common
That
down
was
there,
a
so
big-
we gave him one.
John,
Torsty hung with him and Bud McCassie and
John,
Bob Hansler.
we're trying to talk about the big fires that were in Gleasondale, the old shoe factory and the
Yeah.
mill itself, and yet there's lots of water down there as opposed to most parts of Stowe. Any idea how they got started or what the problem was putting out the fires?
There was 2 fires at the Wick factory.
The big, yeah.
Didn't lose it the first time, second time it went up. Boy, was that hot.
Yeah,
Were you there, Al?
yeah.
Yeah. I was driving one of the trucks, I remember.
Spud got burned there, didn't he?
Yeah, Spud got burned. He went by down the Railroad Avenue, pumped water down back there.
Yeah.
It was so hot. We had his arm, he had his arm out the window. And we were wetting down the house across the street. The Towers lived there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Howard, yeah.
from
Well,
me.
there used to be houses all the way from the store to the bridge.
Yeah,
on that
I've
side of
seen the
road.
map.
And they tore them all down.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave my father a 25-cent raise over there. And they went up 25 cents on Mr. Smith's rent. We were paying something like $2 a month for rent.
Wow.
Were all those houses from like where the school was on the right-hand side going towards Hudson, were they all factory owned, I mean, company
They
owned
owned every house over there,
on both sides of the street?
both sides of the
Bill-
street, and they owned all the way down around on
Bill
Old
Smith
Marlboro
bought most
Road.
of them, I think.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
The
after the
only one I
war. I
don't
think he
think
bought
they
the mill
owned was
too. Just
Byron's,
on it.
was on High Street.
But,
Yeah.
Wasn't Maynard,
Bill
the mill's
Smith
the
bought
same
one
thing
of
down
those
there
houses.
too?
He bought the
All
mill
those
too,
houses
didn't he?
around the mill there
He
was
told
going to
me
the
that
Maynard mill.
they
Right.
offered all
That
those
would be a
houses
bit
to the people
surprising.
that lived in them.
First,
Well,
yeah.
that's what
And,
used to drive truck for
Nobody had any
the,
money.
yeah.
So
Woolen Mill in
Bill told me
Acton.
He went into Boston
For
and he
years,
borrowed
he told me.
$10,000.
We used to go down to some of those row
And he came home. and
houses.
sold it.
Yeah.
But they were all
Told me that
built up.
himself.
He must have made some money on the country club, because he owned that.
Bill used to
Cox
own the
had it
houses
there.
and own the stores.
Yeah, we need to
So they get
keep
all
it
the
to
money
one
back.
conversation, please.
He had to buy groceries, then when they went to the mill. Whatever you did, the money went back to the mill. They didn't lose a thing.
Parker's house burned too.
When was that? The
Quite a
30s?
ways ago, yeah, that was pretty young.
You were telling me about the 12th trees burning, you remember that?
The what?
The
12
12 trees house. You were telling me
Yeah,
about.
that
They
was
saved
up
part
on,
of that too, they had to lay a line all the way to the Assabet River, didn't they?
They owned all the way to the Assabet River, and they all owned all the way down to where my father's house was.
But
Both
the
sides
fire
of the road.
department, they had to lay a hose all the way down to the mill, and they.
To the river,
Yeah.
and the water was freezing in the hose on the way up the road. And the main part of the house burned completely to the
Yeah.
ground. And then Mr. Fuller owned the Fuller Lumber Company in Quincy,
Oh,
and he rebuilt the main part of the house. The other part was up okay. And
when was that, in the 30s sometime, maybe?
I think it was in the early 40s because
Oh, that.
I used to cut the grass up there when I was about 16.
Their place went up in smoke in 44, you remember that?
Oh, yes, yeah.
And Bill Parker's house burned completely down. That was the yellow house.
Yeah, on the hill,
Yeah.
yeah. I see.
And then over in Gleasondale, they used to have those carriage sheds in back of the church, and
Yeah.
those all burned down.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. Johnson that owned the store, he lost his car in there.
Oh,
He used to live in that next house after the church.
I thought that was a parsonage.
No, the parsonage was back this way on the other side of the street.
Oh, okay, that one of those houses in the
It
bank.
has a little railing in the
Yeah,
front
yeah, I
like
know
that.
what you mean.
Mr. West lived there. And then when
West, yeah, I remember there was a woman, she's kind of stocky woman, was that
Ruth,
Ruth West, yeah.
she became assistant postmaster.
Yeah, that's right.
When Mrs. Donnelly died.
Okay.
And Mr. Johnson, when he bought the store, he sold the house to the church for parsonage.
And after my house burned down in 1944,
Yeah.
I had an uncle and aunt that lived over it. They were renting, I don't know who owned the property, but this little red schoolhouse.
Yeah,
I lived over there for 2 or 3 weeks.
after the fire.
After the
The
fire,
schoolhouse.
yeah. And I can remember there was, like, there's one big room and a little room.
Tibby lived in there.
No, it's,
Oh, yes.
One of your aunts.
Aunt
William
Wilma,
Hayden,
Aunt Wilma
yeah.
Hayden, married to
Yeah.
Hayden.
yeah.
And I got a picture of them in that schoolhouse somewhere. Somebody gave me.
There were a number of families living there.
Yeah, yeah.
How long Roland Wright lived? How long did you do that house? Was he a
Well, he must have bought that about 1946 or 47, because that's when the mill closed. And he tore the top of the barn off and made it just 1 story instead of 2.
Kelly had the plumbing place there.
Across the
Billy.
street.
Yeah.
Where is Hayden now? I can't remember his first name,
The
the boy.
They're all dead, ain't they?
I think the boy is.
Tano, Tano,
Yeah.
Tano.
Tano.
I think Tano is, this is a Tano, there's 2 Tano Haydens.
Yeah, it's the young one.
One was Hayden and, yeah,
boy,
both of them are the
yeah.
same, yeah. The one on Red Acre Road, I think he passed away.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
His wife
Older
still,
one.
his
The
wife still
father.
lives there. She was American, wasn't she?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She's 83 or 4 or 5 years old, so.
Alma's wife had, what,
She
something
still
like
lives
a
there,
stroke
good.
or something.
Good, still
Yeah,
lives
yeah.
on Acre Road.
Yeah.
I guess
She's
she's doing pretty
American.
good.
Gertie
Yeah.
still lives on Red Acre Road,
Yeah.
yeah.
Said she
Usually
lived in the
in the
schoolhouse
parking
at one time.
She
told
may
me.
have,
Parking
yeah.
booth there down the hospital, going up to the,
With the big mills there, did they have any firefighting equipment?
They had some kind of a thing in one of the garages there with just like a hose and thing, and then up
Hose
on the
by
hill
the-
in back of there, they had a big in-ground cistern.
That hydrant's there, probably still there.
Well, yeah, but up on top of the
Yeah.
hill, they had this thing, it was as big as this
Big
building.
vessel.
And
I
it
think
had
it
a
was
cover
20,000
over it,
gallons or something
and
like
it
that.
had water in there.
Yeah.
Didn't save them.
They had the hose wagons there. I remember when the store burnt in Gleasondale, they had them out there.
Gleasondale was the only one installed, they had their own water system.
Right.
Yeah, the mill owned the water supply
Yeah.
in back of where we lived.
Right.
And all the houses down as far as the store had like town water.
Town water.
There was
And
no
there used to be a
hydrants.
big water thing right out behind, when you come
McCarty's.
down off the hill, the first, second house on the left, I think it was. Right out behind there.
You lived next to that brick house at one
Right.
time, yeah. It was right back of that house, wasn't it? That
It was
water.
in back of the one.
This side.
Yeah,
McCarty's
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Somebody
And didn't they
drowned in
come
the
to
well
water?
there or something one time.
Oh.
There's some kid drowned in there.
That
one-
was Reed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
They
fell in
bought
the well.
Mrs.
Remember
McCarty's
that?
house. and
Yeah,
he
when he fell in the well.
down
Right,
back of
yeah.
Hill's Field.
Yeah. Because then,
What the heck was that?
Maycomber
name?
bought it.
McCall?
Ran
Eleanor
it for a while.
McCall.
Yeah, what, is she still alive?
Yeah, I just got a letter from her. She's down in Florida. and
Okay.
It was Grant
She's
Makey.
80.
Yeah,
Grant.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be.
And then he tried to get, when he got ready to move and stuff, he tried to sell it to them, to the people, but none of the people wanted it, so they all ended up putting mounds in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
I
surprised to learn that Grant would have wanted, Grant was an MP.
Huh?
Grant was an MP.
Yeah, right.
Military police took him over. Said I bet he was a tough one.
Buster, no.
Grant, he was tough.
Cause he was a regular little guy.
Yeah, he's out in Arizona, got a new wife, she's Indian, or off the reservation, I think.
That was Elma. No, that's
No,
Clarence.
Elma's still living, yeah,
Yeah, he's
Clarence.
up in Michigan.
Elma, they were at his mother's wake, that's where I saw
Yeah,
him.
I saw him down
Buster
there.
there, he had a young wife there, she's Indian, one of the reservations, I guess, in Arizona or somewhere. He hasn't changed any.
He had about 8 kids.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
Buster, yeah.
Gleasondale had their own
Franny,
electric
Franny,
plant
Big, tall,
at
skinny.
at one point.
I don't know.
Franny, Francis.
Richie.
I don't know what
Rich.
it,
Got a
I
question?
don't know what her,
I don't know, I know he has,
she came to school in Stowe for a short time, and then she went back to Acton.
He's got a question for you.
Was wondering about the electricity. The Gleasondale was the first one.
We had Hudson Light and Power, and we had,
But before that, was there self-generation?
the what?
Did the Gleason plant or the Gleason family have their own generators
No,
before?
but they were the ones that had the trolley line that went through.
Uh,
I think that was Albert Gleason, the one that lived in the yellow house. And then that closed in 1925, I think, is when that went out of business.
The buses,
And then the level bus took over, and the level bus used to run from Maynard to Leominster, and from Maynard to
I like the,
I like the nights.
Downtown Heights, yeah. It was a dime to go to Hudson, 20 cents to go to Maynard.
one of the Robleys was telling me, Gene, about the buses there. They had the big spare tire in there.
Yeah.
The bus had slowed down in front of their house. They'd hop inside of the spare and ride to Maynard. I forget which Robley it was.
Yeah, the trolley started,
You remember the trolley, don't you?
4 years before I was born.
Oh, okay, you don't remember it.
Not the trolleys, no.
We'll see him in.
I can remember the bus line.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And the tracks being under the,
Yeah, right down there at the corner, the tracks are still
yeah,
Second grade and
still there.
under the tire.
But the bus, the trolley line stopped
this is
in
Maynard
1920.
We dug that 117 to the main line of Stone Center, reconstructed, found 2 spikes in there, so.
And you must be in
Nothing
there.
else, they had taken
But I
everything
put
out of
names
their
on
ties.
it. Gordon Cowell was there.
Sudbury Road still had the rails in it.
Picture about
That,
big.
they
I
never
put
digging
names
them
on all the
out.
ones that I know.
I'll remember.
I'd see that.
The only
can make-
washboard
Yeah,
in there,
but
you got the
You
bollards
can do that
out.
on the computer.
The bridge, I don't know what you call it, pillars or whatever, the bridge thing is still there.
Yeah, you see, off.
Up where the bridge was, where across going into Hudson.
Then there was a question, I don't know whether he asked it, about the sign off of Baton Road, it said Pine Point, remember the archway? You have pictures of that?
Half of it. I've got half of it, not the whole thing.
We dug out the pillars in there. You must remember that archway on, probably do too, Phil. Going into Pine Point from Baton Road, and an archway there.
Yeah.
You're looking for a
Oh,
picture.
yeah, right the foot of the hill.
Huh?
The foot of the hill.
Yeah, I used to go through there.
Did I hear somebody say they had a picture of it?
They're looking for pictures of it, nobody's seen that one. I never seen.
The only one that might have it is young Bobby Larkin, because old man Larkin
Yeah.
had that store over there,
Yeah.
and he might have a lot of pictures of.
Where's
Lake
he
Boone.
live? Where's he live? Maynard? Larkin?
No, he lives over Lake now.
Oh, does he?
Yeah,
He used to live in Maynard, didn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know maybe.
I'm supposed to get an old photo album that my sister is gonna send me. It's got, I don't know when the pictures were taken, but it might be pictures in there, in that album.
Yeah.
I know it.
It's an old one. Ladies had the big hats and bathing suits.
Up in, where Bobby Cook lives now, in the attic, there's the old grass, grass skirts and that, it's still up there.
Grass skirts.
You know
The
Charlie,
cloth is all rotted.
you knew Charlie Stebbins, right?
Yeah, yeah. Did I know?
He said,
Charlie?
I said, you know Albie? He said, yeah, that curly-head little son of a bitch. I remember him.
Oh, yeah, do Charlie.
Charlie
Yeah.
Stebbins beat the town.
Yeah.
They told him to clean up his junkyard. He
Yeah.
wouldn't do it, so they took him to court. The judge says, he come out, the judge looked and said, it's a junkyard, you gotta clean it up. He said, I'm not gonna clean it up. He said, we need to clean it up, I'll give you 10 days. He said, I'll take the 10 days. So he went to jail for 10 days, he never lived so good. He said, nice clean sheets.
He lived in one of those vans out there, didn't he?
Yeah, I think
Go
so.
by there 2 o'clock in the
He was
morning.
out, he drove the roads all night.
Yeah.
I used to give him flares to put in the car, because he'd show up at action before I got there. He'd have flares out for me.
He used to keep that barn locked up.
Oh, I bet
pretty
he
good.
did. What did he do when you knew him? He was in junk business when you knew him?
Yeah.
Yeah, was he?
Yeah.
Where did he live?
He lived in North Grafton.
Oh.
And then he moved with Bud Whitney.
Oh, okay.
Bud Whitney was the one, Stebbins was the one that talked to Bud Whitney to get Bud Whitney to come to Stowe.
Was he from Stowe originally, Stebbins?
No,
No.
North Grafton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He owned that house at one time in the corner there, and then he must have sold it
Yeah.
and moved into the, I don't know where the door was to that house they lived in.
I don't know.
Real estate signs, and
I don't know.
she'd come to the, out there, she had more rouge on her than,
Yeah.
yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
Then he'd be sleeping there, you go by there at 2 o'clock in the morning, he'd be out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They live right in the van.
Yep.
They're not gonna have me clean up, he said.
What?
He told the judge, I guess, too, there, I heard Jeannie there, one of the selectmen were with him, and the barn is locked, I can't get in there. He said, well, get the keys, my wife has it. He says, can't we just reach around there? He says, that's breaking an entrance, isn't it? Well, the judge agreed with him.
Yeah.
He took the 10 days instead.
Yeah, it took the 10 days.
When they passed away, the two boys took off. I don't know what, nobody knew where they went.
But there's 3 boys, 2, I know those 2.
That two
Maybe there's
boys, yeah.
2.
No.
He was a character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They sold out, gone.
Robichaud bought that place. I think
Yeah.
George Morey got into the barn.
Yeah,
Through
George
him.
did.
And we got, was it George, Harvey truck, you know, we used to dig for bottles.
Yeah.
And that was so full of milk bottles, pumps, you couldn't even walk in there.
Wow.
If anybody was missing a pump, I think it was in there. You know, all pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, brand new ones right in crates.
Yeah.
Where do you get money to buy that stuff? We didn't need it where he bought it. Huh?
He had an outlet.
Yeah. But I think he did some plumbing, didn't he, for,
I don't know, I guess that was his thing, plumbing. Yeah.
Leaky Stebbins?
Leaky Stebbins, Leaky Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like leaky freeze in Acton, huh?
We've got a reunion coming up, Hale High School reunion, that around
Yeah.
Springfest, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Are all of you graduates of Hale?
Actually, everybody is, I guess.
Everybody will get drunk that day, huh?
Did you graduate?
Too old now.
You made it, Billy, huh?
I made it, yeah.
Were you there when they made the bomb? Winky Woodhead made the bomb out there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They were
He said
very,
you never see a Chevrolet car. Hartley was going down the driveway, and he says he let that bomb off out back. He made it in the lab. He got some black powder from his father. He was chairman of the school committee, and
they were,
he said, I never see a Chevy come back and reverse that fast. He said, spit and grabbed him by the ear and took him up to his father. His father laughed. He said, where do you get the black powder? He said, I've got plenty of it in the shelf here. You want some?
they used to make cannons, little brass cannons, because my
Yeah.
father had a machine shop.
Yeah.
And they'd come in, at noontime, we'd go out and watch his newest cannon blow up.
Yeah.
And we had a wooden basketball post. By sakes, one time he shot her off, and the thing went about 3 inches into an oak plank. And nowadays, you'd be put in jail for being a terrorist.
You used to make the first missiles
Oh, yeah.
out of tops
Matchsticks,
of wooden matches.
Yeah.
I thought my
Two
hit it,
bolts.
it was still in my hand, it
I've
blew
got
off.
You never knew where it was going, you hit it,
Somewhere at the
and
house.
away it went.
I couldn't find it. I don't know whether you have it or not, Rich.
What's that?
Bill Woodhead. Everybody call him Winky.
We had it, but
Winky, yeah.
I've got it at the house.
He's never answered. He
No,
never said
he
anything
lives in
back.
Gloucester.
Wires
And,
up.
he was on the historical
Transformer
commission for a
down there,
while.
Wally.
That character.
Winky.
It was in Berlin, he was on the library committee, he said they had not many people picking books, he said, we got a hold of some flicks, he said, showed them in there, all the high school kids in there taking out books, and I got brought to business, needless to say, we got kicked off the library committee. And he said, we got the business in there for them, though. Yeah. You probably remember him on the commission, Winky, Paul, I always call him Winky, nobody else did.
Right.
Huh? Nobody in the meeting would call him Mr.
He was
Woodhead. I
always
said,
winky
"Winky."
to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
I said, he's Winky, I don't know.
He had an older brother, Danny.
Yeah.
The worst baseball player I ever knew.
Worst time.
He was out in center field one time. Ball went up in the air and he's got his glove like this. And around the head.
He was,
Said that.
his grandfather made the lathes that made the parts for the Waltham watches. I mean, that was quite a shop they had up there.
Another thing they made was, you know, before hydraulic brakes, you used to have mechanical brakes.
Monterey,
And they had a little thing that looked like, I don't know, a little instrument of some sort. You put that in the center of your car on the floor, and you drive the car,
Yeah.
and you hit the brake, and then that
The registry
meter
button.
would register.
yeah.
I don't know what the numbers were supposed to register, but then it would tell you if brakes were either good or bad. You
Then they
get
made
an
the
inspection
boosters
sticker.
for the Monterey trucks. They had no brakes on them. His grandfather made those. He said he was gonna give me one. He said, I got an old box. He never did. And I've seen them advertised, but not under their
Yeah.
name. Somebody had gone and bought them, but some type of a spring-loaded booster for the Monterey's. They made parts for radar up there during the war. They had quite a business. Yeah, quite a shop. Yeah, the grandfather, Hughes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was real sharp on that stuff. Tell you who worked up there, it was Herbie Phelan used to work up
Well,
there.
Dick Salmon did, and
Dickie worked
Al
up.
Hartley
Oh, they all
did.
did. I
and,
remember Herbie Phelan
uh,
working there.
I don't remember how many more, but
Yeah.
I know those two did. After school and in the summer.
Yeah, and it was all government work. They made gauges for fighter planes up there too, I guess, during the World War. That's not written in Stowe history either, you know, that's something like that should be written up, I think, in the history books of Stowe. You know,
What do you call himself, Waltham, Dylan Gage?
Island Gage, he came from Waltham.
Yeah.
We knew them when they were in Waltham.
Oh, is
Did
that
My
right?
family
Yeah,
did.
did you?
I didn't, I was only 5.
Yeah,
My
they-
family knew.
See, Wakey said his grandfather made the lathes that made the parts for the Waltham watches.
Billy Wiki worked up there.
Yeah.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
That
Is that a plus or a negative?
I just got a letter from him, I think it might be negative.
As long as it wasn't you Gators, he's all set.
Ugatis is around.
Huh? Is he?
Billy sees him now.
Oh, yeah?
So I believe he's on the East Coast, because I forget what, Billy sent me pictures of Scully Square. One night he and Ugatis went in there and tied one on. But, I said something and Billy said, I hurt Ugatis terribly, whatever I said. But he is around.
He had a good
Yeah.
job, he was making
He was doing advertising and stuff like that.
television.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
had his
movies and stuff.
portfolio at the home,
Yeah.
he left it one time, comes in the yard blasting his horn in a big Pontiac.
He was selling equipment out in California.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, I don't know, Billy gave him my telephone number up, but anyway, he called me up and he said, hey, Royce, I understand you got a bunch of trucks. I said, yeah, what can I do for you? He said, well, he said, I'd like to sell you some. Gator. I said, I don't think I want to buy a truck off of you. He said, what do you mean? He says, I'll treat you right. I said, that's what I'm afraid of.
Billy Wiki has been trying for 3 years now to start the senior ball club.
Yes,
stuff.
I saw that.
He advertises every year for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And his last orders for me was to find a geisha girl up there for Springfest, because he has the clothes.
He married some young girl, I heard.
Well, that lasted,
Oh, that's not right.
Oh, he's not married now?
no,
Gonna go back to
Business
the old
anymore.
girlfriend and acting?
No,
hair was purple.
he can't
or
talk
something
like that, I don't think.
that.
He hasn't heard from Debbie already. Debbie and he will be going to the reunion.
Gators,
He
he's in
he thinks Debbie
California.
can.
I'll never forget the time,
He has another girlfriend.
you Gators come work on the highway department nights, and used to get a help when I was driving the truck. But that was way back in the 50s, and had a little salt spreader, used to dump the salt on the tailgate.
Yeah.
And we had a freeze one night, so we took one, they had 2 town trucks, all they had, I guess, at the time. And Gators was my helper, so we put 41 bags of salt in the back, and I'm supposed to do half the town. Well, everything thawed. I mean, it got warm enough, the roads thawed. So we got back to the barn, I says, the Gators, I see salt bags up and down 117 as far as your house. So he got rid of them 40 bags of salt between the center and, he threw all the bags in the roadside. Blackie says to me, why don't you wash him? I said, can't wash him, drive the truck. Hanging the eyes in the back of my head. The other truck came back, they had used 2 bags, Leesondale Road and I think the State Road over there. Gators got a ton of it gone.
When John and I were young, Barclay Tatler, we took care of the cemeteries. And when they were gonna oil the roads, Barclay Tatler would come over and get John and I to get up on the trucks and shovel the sand out.
Yeah.
And he'd be down in the bottom yelling his head off at us to hurry up, and pretty soon his hand would come in pulling sand out. And John and I would try to load his hand with sand, or maybe even hit it possibly with the shovel, so he'd keep it out of there, but we always got that.
I used to shovel in the back of that truck.
You know
Get
what?
out there on a rainy day,
You know
when
what-
they're doing
you know
it.
what
Then we
that
used to
spreader
plow,
was when I
remember,
took
Gene?
over?
We used to plow the roads, that was
Bank and
something.
it was still in the woods down there. Yeah, dumped it up and there it went. We
Well, they
kicked
don't
it.
oil the roads anymore, do
Well, we were still oiling,
Yeah.
standards back then, but,
Yeah.
I got rid of the old grader too. Remember, Jeannie must have pulled that. I got a picture, I was gonna bring it, you and Al.
I'll be,
Al and you, Greg, Gates
Yeah.
Lane.
Yeah.
I was gonna bring
Gates
that.
Lane, yeah.
Did I ever give you a picture of that?
No.
Yeah, Al?
No, I don't
Well,
think so.
see you get one.
Where is the old roller? That big old.
The roller's down the barn,
Is it?
outside.
Go in
They
there.
told 'em- They get 'em-
Outside.
Oh, it's outside?
Yeah, outside, and the wheels get,
Yeah,
why don't you sell that down in Maine, and the town gets some money, they look
West
up
End
for them
with
big
the
rollers.
West End, you walk around and you take
Oh,
your
we're
big
gonna
box, you get
display it.
out of there. Father says, get up the goddamn, they don't take care of them goddamn rocks.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
Little
them.
grader.
So what I'm saying, but they-
Gee.
The fuel pump went on it, and then you go get a fuel pump, put a gravity filled tank on it.
You know, when they put the ball field in down Bradley Lane,
You got
my
that
father was running it down there, working, and he had the roll and everything down there. So we went down, it was Gators and Wiki and a whole bunch of us went down. I said, come on, I said, I know how to run that. We'll go for a ride around the field. So we went down there, and all of a sudden, here comes a cruiser coming down, so we all have to think I'm going like crazy through the woods. I know, they never did get us, but.
And there was a box of spikes down there that you could plug. You could hammer the tape, and
Yeah.
you could hammer the thing out in the hole, and you put those spikes in, you get the traction of digging up
Yeah,
road.
yeah,
And I hope they still got them, but they
probably not.
probably don't know what they are.
The only one thing I'm peed off about that ball field, that was supposed to be named after
Will
Will O'Pecker. He was
Right.
the only
Will
Stowe
O'Pecker.
built, the only boy killed
Yeah.
in World War II from Stowe. And in
You'd never hear.
in 10, they turned around and made it the athletic field.
Bradley Field.
Now, Gus Graff and C.D. Fletcher each
Mr.
donated.
Hughes, we did some stuff too.
They-
Mr. Hughes donated money for that.
Yeah.
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 Mr. Hughes.
Up to you for ball, baseball.
Right,
And
Was it the Veterans Field?
they never named it after him. They named it the Stowe Athletic Field.
Yeah,
And
Brad-
it should have been named after Will O'Pecker.
There's nothing in town named after him, is there?
Huh?
There's nothing in
No.
town.
No,
named after
nothing.
him.
And he's the only store boy killed in World War II.
You know, when I was bowling on TV, I was in Boston Bowlerdrome in Boston, and Don Gillis, if you ever saw it, Don Gillis was the sports announcer. So he said, Bill Erkin, I said, yeah, he says, before we started bowling, he said, where are you? He says, Stowe, and Don Gillis says to me, I know a guy from Stowe, I went to the Navy with him, his name is Wilho Peckler, where is he?
Yeah.
I said, would you believe that he's the only guy from Stowe that killed him?
Was killed.
He said, unbelievable. He said, I was on ship with him. And then the next thing you know, he got put on another ship, and I went on another. And I guess apparently that ship got blown up, and that was the end of Will.
Everybody voted to have it named after him, and
Yep.
Never happened.
they went and made the store
I
after
was talking to his sister,
And matter of fact, his oldest sister still lives in Stowe.
I was talking to her the other day, she's 92.
Downey?
Yep.
Yeah, her
Oh, yeah.
mind is as clear as a bell.
Yep.
Yep.
He had a brother, didn't he?
Yeah.
Butsy.
Butsy.
Then Toivo, there was another brother.
Butsy, yeah.
Toivo Peccola.
Yeah.
And Irene Jarvie. And there was another family of Peccolas that his first wife, Maynard. And there was another Peccola in Maynard that Walden's wife was a daughter of. Remember? Walden lived across from Warren's. They're both.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right.
He was
Not Carrie's house,
IRS
right.
enforcer that was Walden. He'd lock your business up if you didn't pay. And
Did you say they're both gone?
they're both gone, yeah.
The Jarvies raised their kids in I guess it was an old garage on Harvard Road. It had dirt floor.
Yeah,
No floor in it.
yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she had a number of kids, but that's where they were raised, in this one little building, right across from,
The milk house from.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Just before you turn to go up to the golf
Yeah, but what
course.
was your relative's
Bully,
name?
Bully.
Bully.
Yeah.
Bertha.
Now, before, right after I got out of the service, we had an American Legion.
Yeah.
Right, he told me he'd put it in writing. His wife was in the institute. But he said he'd put this in writing, that we'd get that old school building and the whole big field across from it for nothing. The Legion would.
The two
And,
acres there now.
I brought it up at the Legion, and I can't name names, but this one guy said, "Oh, we can't do that. A prostitute lives in that little house."
Yeah, but that's not mentioned in the history.
No.
They were asked, the prostitute, the husband used to go to Maynard and pick up the Johns.
Yeah.
Had a bicycle.
And he would, no, he had a car because he
Oh,
brought
did he
the,
have
he
one? I
brought the
remember riding a
Johns
bicycle.
back, and he waited, and then we'd take him back to Maynard. And the selectmen in town finally asked them to move.
Yeah.
But the history of the schoolhouse that Connie Schwarzkopf
Never
wrote
mention it.
has everybody that was associated with the school, except this one couple. They
Yeah.
had children also, and I asked her one day about it, and she just shook her head. And
It didn't happen in
No,
Stowe.
the lake one years back with Duffy, went over the lake, they said, "You think somebody's running the house, I only repute over there, there was about 6 girls sitting out front, the guy comes out, he says, Duffy says, where are all these girls? He said, "They're my cousins." He said, "When you get your cousins the hell out of here."
The American Legion would have had all that land in that
Yeah.
building.
Whatever happened to the money that when the Legion owned that lot when the cemetery is?
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, they owned it for
I heard
years.
That money disappeared.
Nobody knows.
They sold that to the town, right across from Brookside Cemetery.
I got put out of the Legion
Yeah.
because I went in one
Before you
day
asked the question.
too late for the service.
That I can't understand.
Oh,
Back then, they had the dates and stuff, because Carl was commander and I was vice commander. And all of a sudden, when we lost our charter, that piece of land disappeared. Same thing as the guns. All the guns disappeared, but I just
Everything
found
did.
out where the guns are now. They're all in the police station.
Oh, we got them?
Roland White brought them down once. I don't dare leave them in the town hall anymore.
No,
'Cause we
no,
take
they
those
used to be in the
pictures.
little room where we are.
Yeah.
Right.
Could
Now they're all
you could
gone.
find, what were they?
Huh?
30s?
Yeah. but
Oh,
they're-
the old
Wowzer,
World War.
They're all Second World War.
They're old.
Bolt
Yeah.
action?
Lee
Yeah,
Enfield.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Geez, I don't even remember that so long. I haven't seen them.
Yeah.
Springfield,
But they're all down there.
Springfield.
anyway.
I think so. I think
I
it's-
remember them.
They used to keep them in the library.
World War One rifles, huh?
Yeah.
They were, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that's too bad.
And-
'Cause I was hoping sometime to be able to do something up on that piece of land, but
Yeah.
then when they, all of a sudden, when we made him commander, then the district sent out these letters checking everybody's dates, and Frankie's date didn't come up.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that was
One
right.
day.
I missed it
Ah,
by
I-
one
I
day.
can't
Yeah, I don't think that
They
was right.
told me I had to get out.
I can't understand.
Because we all wanted to keep them in, they wouldn't let us. I didn't think that's right.
Too bad that money disappeared, or they shouldn't have sold it.
Everything disappeared.
They shouldn't have sold it in the first place.
Everything
It's
disappeared.
nice to have a Legion home.
Oh, I know.
Every town has one.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, we ain't got any charter now. so.
No,
I don't know if you could ever get one back, or you might be able to get
I
one
don't
back if
know.
you had enough people that was interested.
yeah, we used to have fishing parties
Oh, yeah.
and
Dan, we used to
We
run
ran-
dances up there
we ran
every
back
Saturday night, every
Yeah,
other Saturday
Legion
night,
dances,
remember the
yeah.
dances
What
and
was the
stuff?
Legion-
Two
what was the
weeks,
VFW, was that
2
the
days a
same,
week.
or-
We ran the barn dance.
VFW.
VFW, no,
That's
that's, everything's VFW now.
Totally
I'm a life member of the VFW
Yeah.
in Hudson,
Yeah.
because when this left, I went up to Hudson and Frankie,
Yeah,
they're right
Did
there
that come
too.
out during the Second World War, after the Second World War?
Second World War,
VFW?
yeah, VFW came out.
That was Stillman
Yeah.
Priest was ahead of it one time, I think.
They wanted me to go to the Legion in Maynard, but
Yeah.
that was closer for me.
Yeah,
up here,
VFW
so-
was very active for a while here in Stowe.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it was
Oh,
good,
yeah.
Bob Lund was on it, there was a
Yeah,
whole bunch
yeah.
of guys from.
Yeah.
from,
World
was
War
on there.
One veterans, there was a bunch of them, they used to
Yep.
Memorial Day.
Because
Whit-
Bob
Whit-
Lund,
Whit Ferguson used to call cadence there.
and the dances from, we took some of the money out of what we made at the dance, and we bought American flag and a club flag.
VFW.
Yeah, VFW flag. And I remember Bob Lund come and stopped me one day and thanked me. He said, "We haven't had a flag or nothing ever since World War One." And he says, "Thank you for getting us a flag and what to call so."
Boy, those dances, they used to be,
Oh,
boy, they were crowded.
It cost
We
you
did 'em from all over.
50 cents.
Yeah.
And then at intermission, we'd have refreshments downstairs.
Yeah.
And we put a bowl on the table, and you put whatever tip you wanted in that. That's how you paid for your meal.
Who was the band? Emma Durkee?
Huh?
Emma Durkee, she was.
No, Irma Durkee wasn't, I forget who the heck, it was some gentleman, but the man that played the organ was a blind man from Maine.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Johnny.
Johnny.
Yeah,
Johnny.
Johnny.
I can't think of his
I
last
can't think
name.
of his last name now
Yeah.
either.
He used to play the
Accordion, he
Yeah.
played the
He played
accordion too.
accordion, yeah.
Accordion,
Yeah.
Say which.
Yeah, remember old Johnny?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Johnny Sayward.
The accordion.
He used to walk all around Maynard, he was blind.
Yeah.
All around Maynard,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's been dead too long, probably what, 15, 18 years or so. You ever seen him?
There was a dance in that town hall almost every week, one type of.
We used to have 2 a month.
Yeah, and the high school used to have 1 or 2 a month.
Yeah, that used to be
Drink
the
up
good
the
times.
booze.
I remember when Stillman Priest had the dances up there. We used to
Dance
go
Oh,
there,
yeah.
kids.
Those
We
are
used to have
dance
them.
classes.
The dance
Oh,
classes,
yeah.
yeah, we used to go all the time. Yeah, too.
Yeah, okay.
I'll
He
never
had a
forget
three-piece band.
And what we had is we made, of course, the people came.
Boy, you remember the three-piece band? Nellie Bassett.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
No,
Nellie
Nellie
Bassett.
Bassett, or was it Nellie,
Nettie.
whatever?
Nettie.
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 Yeah.
the stool,
Yeah.
the piano,
Nettie.
and Nettie.
Yeah.
Boy, could she bang that piano.
Then if she got mad,
Yeah.
look out.
And she played by ear, there was no music.
That's right.
She had a number of minstrel shows
Yeah,
in the town hall and at our church.
yeah.
And those were the old minstrel shows where everybody colored up and the whole nine yards.
Yeah.
But we get halfway through the program, practicing and everything, and all of a sudden the hands would go down on the piano. It's over, it's over. She was she could
The
play.
Smiths,
Oh, yeah.
the Smiths used
Well,
to
you
play.
used to
too,
play
didn't
for the
they?
school.
Helen and George
Oh,
Smith used to
school.
play for the high school
Yeah.
dances.
Yeah, that all,
We got a
Is that all they
crowd,
played
we got a
for?
crowd
Oh,
because,
George played
they
in
were
maybe
telling
one
us,
of the bar rooms for a while.
especially ladies,
Jimmy's bar room.
they go to
Oh,
a
yeah, they were
dance
excellent.
and
Down
guys are
Jimmy,
pouring
yeah.
them all
Yeah,
over.
people-
And she says, well, there's no liquor allowed here.
Are the Smith boys are still alive?
Those
Lonnie's
guys don't
dead,
come.
and I'm not sure about
So we
Ralph
have
yet.
a
I'm trying to
decent-
get hold
Yeah.
of him.
Decent dance.
Ronnie Cobb was dead.
Yeah,
Lonnie-
Lonnie's dead.
Stillman got up,
Say God was up
a
the
couple of
house.
us I know, we go home.
I don't know
What killed Ron? Took a lesson from him. And then bring it up to Camp Devon to put on a demonstration of square dancing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And he came up the house the day after.
Tell you what, this
Out
guy's
in
a
the woods,
plumber
they
from
looked at
Maine.
that Kenny Stone up
He said I
there.
was
You ever
down
seen
on the
that?
lounge.
No, I don't remember.
It's in
no.
the Army.
No,
I
we're
got
covered
here.
with water when you lived
And the
there.
medic called out to me,
Swamp.
I'm from
Yeah,
Maine,
big
the medic
stone
called
there.
out to me, who the hell
Big
was
as
it?
this table.
Still in freeze from Stone.
It's where old man Tenny died.
World
Not
War
where
II.
it's
Someone in town asked me, did you find his mowing machine?
I haven't seen Ronnie.
1944.
I was in the Battle of the Bulge. I got hit.
Ronnie had come up to my house right after the Korean War.
This medic called out to me,
That right
picked me up,
away.
get me out of there.
My mother
It was
was
still in
in
freeze from
the
Stone.
Machine came
Imagine the kid from Stone called out, but the kid from Maine.
You got company, I come out crying, I couldn't believe it, yeah.
Whoops!
You know, one conversation.
Smith boys.
Yes,
I remember when I was a
yeah.
swing and sway with Sammy Kaye, piss and shit with Ralphie Smith.
There was one of them always got in trouble, and one always caused trouble and didn't get in trouble. And Ralph always got blamed for everything.
One time Alec was playing with those guys, he ran out on the street and he wound up with a seal beam.
Yeah, I had a,
They
they didn't have seal beams then.
Whatever it was.
This was when we
The headlight hit him on the cheek.
on 117,
And he was he-
Basil Stowe let me, Ronnie and I out, and he was sitting there, and I went around the back of his pickup truck. And I looked that way and stepped out, and this old car sat me on the bumper and left the impression of the headlight on my face. And then everybody shook hands and said, okay, fine, bye. Nobody knew whether I had a brain left. And,
So that's what's wrong.
You can always blame it on that.
I remember when we come home from Waltham after we moved here, and I remember telling my friends here that we did 35 miles an hour coming up 117. And they called me liar because my father had a 32 shift. And I was a liar because I said we did 35 miles an hour.
Old Brimwood up here on Walker Street, he had a stand there on 117, what was it, on the Whalen, Western Town Line?
Oh,
Used to
yes,
go
yes,
Sunday
yes,
nights
he lived
and
in the old
he'd
Miller farm.
Yeah.
He'd do 10 miles an hour, and there'd be traffic all the way down to the stand. Smoking pipe was the guy. You remember him?
Yep,
Yeah, he was a,
he was the animal inspector too, I think, wasn't he?
old Brimwood, he was an assessor one time, he lived on the murder farm.
Yes,
afterward.
the old murder farm.
And I think his sister was married to Mitchell, Yap, one of the Yaps up there, the Yap
He's a
player.
famous baseball player.
Then that
Should have changed
son,
his name from Yap to Mitchell.
yeah, the son was quite a ball player. He pitched the
Yep.
first baseball game, him and Cy Young, the Red Sox ever played. And he lived on Walker Street, buried over here. Fred Mitchell. They used to call him Fred Yap, but everybody yelling yap, yap, yap meant jerk, you know, so. And she came out, she visited me, it was 10 years ago, I think, to stop in with Saudi Memorial Day, shoot the breeze. Jet black hair, she was in the 90s then, I think she's still living out in California. She called one time, but she was rang the phone, wrong number. She had our number there. She couldn't see too good. And she was going to call Hazel Moore and wish her a happy birthday, but she got our number. And she talked for half an hour. And guess who was sitting behind me out here in Los Angeles? I think Skippy Warren. And Skippy says to me afterwards, I'll never go back there because she's blind, she can't see, and goes, he couldn't hear. And she gave me a ride to the train station, and my heart is still like this. And just right through the red lights, there's nobody coming in California. And I haven't heard from her. I guess she's still alive. Mitch, her name was. What the heck was her married name? They were raising chickens. I said, what happened to your husband? It's like, I kicked him, he went back to Mexico, he didn't know an egg from a chicken.
If anybody's interested in pictures of the murder farm, I think they're gonna pull that down pretty quick.
She remembered that well, she was living on Walker Street, the murder, you know.
Understand it's being sold, not as a property, but.
No, I think it's post not livable.
Radon owned that last I knew.
Yeah.
They still own it?
Radon bought it back.
Huh?
Radon bought it back.
They bought it back?
Yeah, because I guess they refinanced it, I think.
I thought they
somebody
just
bought
rented
it,
it out.
No, he was.
For everybody's information, Frank Smelcher is 104.
Still going
Is he?
strong, huh?
He gave
don't
up
drink?
he gave up his license a year or two ago so that he could continue drinking.
Yeah, he's kept him alive.
And the last time I talked
See,
to
that's good
Jack,
for you.
huh? Jackie went to visit him, and he asked his father if he could have a beer, and he went to the fridge, and the fridge was full of beer, no food. But he's
No.
going strong as far as I know.
Was by any chance, way back in them days, did you have to go all the way up through, that way to get to Hudson?
Back
Hudson
when,
Road?
back when, the
No,
back when the
Hudson
house was
Road.
gravel, it was all gravel.
That was
It
dirt
was the
when-
backwoods of Howard, no.
Sandy Brook up, it was dirt
Because-
road.
It was dirt right down to our house.
That's the
Yeah,
first
probably at one
development and
time, I
stuff.
remember it.
Well,
I remember
do.
we reconstructed that Hudson Street.
Because somebody told me that he
County.
was a friend of the fellow that was murdered,
Who was?
Frank Smelcher?
Bradley,
Oh.
Mr. Bradley, which used to live on Bradley Lane.
Oh, okay.
So I was wondering if there's any connection with Mr. Bradley that lived in Bradley Lane. Did the road go, you know, up by the, because he was a friend of the guy that was murdered.
When we lived
Mr.
down
Bradley.
McGuire Lane, we moved to McGuire Lane in 1939. And on a Sunday, I was only 5 years old, my sister was 6. We could look out the window all the way up to Hudson Road, and if we saw dust, we knew we were gonna have company. Because there was nobody else going up Hudson Road. They'd come up that little section of dirt road there, we'd see the dust and they'd turn in and go
Off of
down.
that thing.
And that road was never, McGuire Lane was never plowed until they put that other road down there, whatever it was. I know my father used to have to shovel the
It's
whole
a public
thing.
way, it's laid out as a public way.
But it went right across the road, right into Noonan's.
Not that section's been discontinued.
I didn't say it wasn't discontinued, I said
Yeah,
it
it used
did.
to be, yeah. I
It
looked at
went
the
right,
record.
yeah. It's on some of the maps, it goes right across Hudson
Yeah,
Road,
yeah, it used to.
out to the
I
back
don't know why they
house.
discontinued that piece, there was a house there and a little house on the other one, they kept that one.
Yeah, I used to work over where the fire academy is now, the Department of Conservation. And that's what they were, game wardens, and one of the old time game wardens was there, and I said, how the hell did he ever get built way out here? He said, I'll tell you how he got built out here. the game warden's fault. They was gonna build this down around Route 9. The guy who's in charge of building got a ticket for shooting out of season. And he told the game warden, if you don't fix it, I'm gonna bury you out in the woods. He said, I didn't, he did.
And what place was that, Gene?
Huh?
What place was that?
Conservation, where the fire academy is
Oh,
now.
okay, yeah.
Used to be the Department of Conservation.
Barclay Tapper told me a story that when Philbin was congressman, because he got the funding for Bolton to reconstruct 117 from Meadow Road beyond the school, it was 6 miles, and all the town had to do was pay for land damage. And that was built to federal specifications at 117 at that time, because they paved it since. They had sidewalks and everything else. He came to him one day back, he says, how about doing something with that state road over there? He said, I'm tired of going around them corners, hoops and so forth. He said, I'll speak to the selectmen. No, nobody used that road. So that was the end of it, but he would have got federal funding for it. The land damage probably been nothing, because it was federal land, state land, town of Maine, and the only little piece that was owned privately was Bruin owned that corner at Sudbury Road there. And they might have had to pay something there, but that, they would have had that, it would have been federal specifications. But it's funny, they couldn't foresee that. I mean, look at it today, you know?
Look how much traffic's there.
Huh?
Look all the traffic's there today.
Well,
Yeah, they
that
said,
took
we're gonna add a new road there. He said.
62 away.
He always told me, see, the congressman ever says you're gonna get your money, just grab it, you know? And, but it's too bad that they could
You went to
sit.
the fire department, the old ammunition dump, didn't you? You was
What?
on the fire department, the old ammunition dump, wasn't you?
Yeah.
When it was active?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to find out, is No Name Street still No Name?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Monkey
I
Street
know.
is now, what?
What?
Monkey Street.
It's now Taylor Street.
Taylor Road.
Is it
Taylor
Taylor
Road.
Road? Then it was Taylor Street and then Taylor Road.
And that whole thing used to be Monkey.
Monkey
Well, we
Street.
I got some old mail at home, when we lived up there, that says 104 Monkey Street on the
Monkey
envelope.
Street.
And the West Acton mailman used to come through there then,
Yeah.
because Stone, Warren Hayward.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did he deliver to you?
Sure you do.
And I have old envelopes around the house or cards or something, I've seen it, and keep those, you know?
So it's after 4, and I'm gonna have to pay Ann overtime if we stay much longer. So,
Can't she kick in a little bit of volunteer time?
remember
Oh,
the
looking for volunteers or
reunions
something.
coming up, and I'll be there with notebook and camera to get stories and see a lot of you there. And we'll do this again, maybe in the fall or something when we feel like it.
Very good.
We're trying to,
Thank you.
talk, they mentioned getting Frank Millick here, but I was
Frank
kinda,
doesn't go anywhere.
no, I was kind of doubtful on that one, though. If you ever see him, Dudley, I don't see that much of him.
Mary says he does not go
You
anywhere.
He won't go anywhere.
John
I
proposed
stop
a
in
list
every now.
of people to come, and out of the whole list of, there must have been 12 or 13 of you, only Frank I wasn't able to get together with, and Doug Treffy couldn't come, but everyone else came with first request. And thank you all for
You
coming.
asked George Bezanson?
And George.
I don't think he would know. much
No,
about
he-
it.
He
Oh,
kind of
right,
stayed to
right.
himself.
Huh?
He had
Yeah,
something
stay
else, he
to
wasn't sure if
himself.
he could get here in time.
Somebody
He's
thought, I said,
still
well,
working.
if he
Yes,
wants to
he's
come,
still
he'll come.
working.
I mean, he's been around
I
Stowe
couldn't
for.
believe
He washes
56
windows
years.
and does odd jobs.
Yes, yeah.
No,
Yeah, I see him every now and then.
Go down and made it the other day.
But he was from the 50s, he was.
Yeah, in the late 40s or 50s, him and Joe Bonsella,
Oh, yeah.
he came around about that time.
Well, Rowdy came in the
Rowdy was there.
40s
Yeah, in
because
the 40s. They lived,
I used to run around with his sister.
yeah,
Did
they
they
lived
clean
at
up
state
here, or-
prices at one time.
Yep, well, you're welcome to take home whatever you see, cookies or soda.
And the
And
booze.
for those of you that my age or older, the restrooms are down on the first floor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Think a lot of these guys-